across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Yes, it's me again. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 fast-paced hours of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get stuck in, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Tuesday, January the 27th. Here's what's coming up. A Pakistani migrant is found guilty of an horrific rape, but along the way, the trial judge orders that the fact this vile fiend is an asylum seeker should be kept secret. Why? Don't the British people have a right to know when this type of shocking crime is allegedly committed by a foreigner allowed to stay here in Britain thanks to our ludicrous policy of showering those who arrive illegally with free accommodation, free food, benefits and untold generosity? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, more migrant crisis madness as Rwanda slaps the UK with a massive bill for the £700 million scheme that Starmer impetuously ripped up and destroyed on day one of his disastrous premiership, setting the tone, many might argue. Also, crazy Ed Miliband's deranged nut-zero lunacy edges Britain towards economic catastrophe. Never Hear Keir heads for China to kiss the backside of a malevolent country that means us great harm. Is our Prime Minister's extraordinary naivety a threat to national security? Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000, and I'll catch up with our friend Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who's been on an exciting horse ride with his devoted daughter Bee. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday afternoon together, and we've got a hell of a lot to get through today, I'll tell you. So let's get going straight away, and I'm really pleased to say that in the studio is the boss of the Centre for Migration Control, Research Director, Robert Bates. Hi, Robert.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. Now, first of all, let's talk about what I think is a disgrace. And this, we've seen this time and time again. There's this Pakistani national. He's here as an asylum seeker. He's living at taxpayers' expense. We're not entirely sure whether he was in a hotel or a house of multiple occupation or even a military base. But one of those accommodations was afforded to him by us, the British taxpayer. So he's living here on our expense. He's accused of 2 counts of rape, raping a vulnerable teenage girl who he and a friend pounced on in a park in the constituency of Sutton in Ashfield, Nottinghamshire, which happens to be Reform UK Chairman Lee Anderson's constituency. Lee has blown the whistle on this, but the point here is, Robert, that the trial judge ordered that the jury, and indeed the public, must not know that Sheraz Malik, 28, was an asylum seeker. Why?
Well, I think it's astounding, and I think the reason she's given, that somehow the jury, knowing that this individual was in the country illegally and lodging an asylum claim and being given the largesse of the asylum system, was somehow not relevant, and actually them knowing it would be prejudicial to the trial that this individual is facing. And I think actually what that really shows is this sense from the establishment that the British public are just this kind of great mass of ill-educated sort of bigots just waiting for the opportunity to direct their prejudice to some poor victim that happens to find themselves in a dock. I think actually, far from this, his asylum status being irrelevant to the case as the judge claimed, I think it's actually entirely relevant, and I think it really is at the centre of this evil crime. I think actually if the jury were to have known this individual was here in the country illegally, I think actually it would help focus their minds, it would provide wider context. And actually I think we need to go to a position where, because we're seeing so many of these news stories now, that the asylum status and the immigration status of individuals that commit these crimes is an aggravating factor when it comes to sentencing, because when you read some of the sentencing reports, you read the sentencing report of Hadish Kibati, the chap that committed that awful crime in Essex. When they were sentencing him, the fact that he was an asylum seeker was a source of pity, and the judge was saying, oh, I might be more lenient on you because you're an asylum seeker. No, if they're an asylum seeker and an illegal migrant, the fact that they're then committing crimes, it makes it worse, if anything, and therefore the sentencing should reflect that. And I think actually this whole case has been marred from the get-go. As soon as Lee Anderson blew the whistle on the fact it was an asylum seeker, we saw the whole establishment close ranks, start shrieking cries of foul play and racism and so forth. And it really is the British public that deserve to know these facts, but they are being withheld.
And when asked, this guy Malik was asked why he and his friend took this woman, this vulnerable young woman, into a park and sexually attacked her. His reply was, what else was I supposed to do? So he's a lovely individual, ladies and gentlemen. But here is the big question. Asked in court, Birmingham Crown Court, how he arrived in Europe, Malik protested that the question was not relevant. I'll tell you what, Mr. Malik, we'll decide that, not you. But here is, in my view, the utter scandal. The judge, Simon Ash, intervened and sided with Mr. Malik and said he agreed with him. This was not relevant. In other words, this was supposed to be kept secret from the jury, from the public, and this cannot go on. We have a right, I mean, various police forces, kicking and screaming into this, have now conceded that when they arrest people for allegedly committing serious sexual and violent crimes, and other crimes in fact, and they're asylum seekers, that we have a right to know that. So police forces are starting to reveal that. They didn't like that either. Who can forget the Southport saga, the Southport murderer saga? But Still, this is going on, that our judiciary seem to believe that we, the public, don't have the right to know this, juries don't have the right to know this, and if we did, we'd be all prejudiced about it. Well, maybe we would. I think it probably is a factor that here's this guy living on our generosity. We are nice enough as a nation to welcome him here. He got here illegally. We do the usual for him. Oh, here's free food, here's your benefits, here's your free hotel. Anything else we can get you? Oh, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers. Of course. Help yourself, fill your boots. Yeah. And then he repays us with this. I think it's a factor. I think we should know, but mainly I think the public should know this, because it is quite clear now, Robert, tell me what you think, that we seem to be importing a sexual crime epidemic. Now, nobody wants to point the finger at every single asylum seeker. That would be very unfair. But there are a growing number of these cases, we know. A growing number of convictions of asylum seekers for rape. A growing number of asylum seekers being charged with rape and sexual assault. And the public should not be kept in the dark about that.
No, well, we know the nationalities coming across on the small boats, those most likely, are massively overrepresented when it comes to convictions for sexual assault. I think this chap as well, just to add to the sort of generosity of the British state, was talking through an interpreter through the whole trial as well, which really just sort of taxpayer funded as well.
More money for us, yeah.
Sums it all up. But I think there are two problems. I think first of all, the police forces are meant to be reporting on the immigration status, and actually there is sort of codes of conduct that every time they arrest a suspected foreign national, they should be checking with the Home Office whether he is here illegally, whether he's here on a visa, whether he's here claiming asylum. Most don't actually do that, and of those that do it, they only actually manage to identify the immigration status of a small number of foreign nationals. So that's one problem. We don't have the data. And the second is this kind of we've got to manage public concerns, we've got to manage community relations attitude, this incredibly patronising nanny state approach that we do get from every organ and every branch of the establishment. This idea that actually these individuals in positions of power have been somehow burdened with having to guide the bigotry and the sort of volatile opinions of the majority of these people that are sick to the back teeth of seeing every single week a case such as this one, because it really is stacking up now into being a huge crisis. And I think if that data on the crimes being committed by illegal migrants was ever to be published in full, it would cause such an uproar that I think there would have to be sort of national inquiries, resignations, the whole caboodle. I think Westminster would really finally be shown for what it is, which is almost a cesspit of inadequacy and incompetence.
And this is the gathering storm, isn't it? As I say, it is not an exaggeration to say that there are suspicions, very well-founded suspicions, that for the past, whatever it is, 15, 20 years, we have been steadily importing a sex crime epidemic. There is a disproportionate amount of asylum seekers, migrants here committing sex crimes. I believe it's Afghanis, for example, are 22 times more likely to be charged or convicted with a sex crime than a British citizen, and I think generally foreign nationals are 3 times more likely than British citizens. This is the gathering storm, isn't it?
It is, and I think the government is going to be dragged kicking and screaming into having to publish this data in full as official accredited statistics, because we are managing to get snippets of information and they're coming piecemeal, and the fact that they're not coming through official government channels gives sort of established media outlets and kind of politicians that aren't really interested in having this conversation the ability to say, oh no, that couldn't possibly be true, I don't believe it, and it allows them to skirt around having to actually have the frank conversations. But if you look at some of the sort of court cases that have taken place with these illegal migrants, so many of them are saying, oh well, in my country it's a sort of, it's a greeting, you know, putting your hand up a female skirt is a way of saying hello and that kind of stuff. So I think there are real cultural attitudes, and I don't know how more people don't spot that there is a difference between sort of British approach, liberal society towards women and girls, and the society of those from sort of nations that are culturally
There was
different.
a 26-year-old Afghani who, this happened last year, his sentence anyway, he came across illegally on a small boat, was immediately sort of billeted at a nice hotel in Falkirk in Scotland, walked straight out of that hotel, found himself a vulnerable young girl, 15 years old, underage, took her behind the pub, viciously, violently raped her, and when he was in court, that was his defence. I come from a country with a very different attitude towards sexual assault, basically, and when he was told, well, that's not going to wash, mate, you're getting 12 years, he went berserk in court. This is not an isolated case. More and more, I don't blame their barristers, their lawyers, they're lodging a defence, they're doing their best for their clients, but this is the defence time and time again. Oh well, you know, where I come from, we have a slightly different attitude towards rape. So this is what's going on, folks. Let's quickly let me know what you think about that. Got a message from Steve. Let me know what you think about this. He said, hi Kev, I may be wrong, but since when has a Pakistani national required asylum? It's a safe and stable country. If he's escaping justice, then he should be returned, especially if he commits serious sexual crimes in this country. He has ruined an innocent life here. That is true. And how can he be claiming to be escaping war and torture? There isn't any war.
What they do is, the most are just conjure up sort of really individualised cases to sort of say, oh, you know, I had an argument with some bloke back in my village, and if I go back there, they're going to all do me in. And this is the problem with the system. You can't. Yeah, it's very difficult to actually make sort of legitimate pushbacks against these
so
cases.
This is
so slippery.
This isn't so much escaping war and torture, but fear of persecution if they return. It's all a con, folks. It's all a con. Right, Rwanda, Robert, is now suing the government. As I said in my monologue, the most impetuous move I can remember by a British politician was the Juvenile Act by our current Prime Minister the day after he was elected, July the 5th last. Was it last year? Was it the year before?
Too long ago.
When he came in, he ripped up the Rwanda scheme on day one, saying it was a gimmick, whilst conceding it had cost the British taxpayer, £700 million. You might have thought, out of respect for us who invested so much money, he might have given it a go, but he ripped it up, poured that 700 million down the drain effectively. Well, now Rwanda has said that as part of the Rwanda deal, we had a sort of never plan where we were paying them £50 million every couple of months, more and more and more. And anyway, one of the payments didn't go through, and they are now suing us for £50 million for a Rwanda scheme payment that they never received. So the sort of ramifications of what Starmer did that day continue apace. We have no deterrence because he ripped it all up, and now it's costing us 50 million quid.
Yeah, so basically I think what's happened is Starmer was sort of making it, scrapping around at the centrepiece of his kind of immigration proposal. Day one he kind of flounced off and said, I'm done with Rwanda, but actually forgot to press the sort of termination on the agreement, and therefore the agreement was technically still in place and they didn't realise, which just, I think, sums up their whole approach to immigration, which is kind of lackadaisical, sort of devil-may-care and a bit ramshackle. But with regards to the 700 million, these are sunk costs now. Whether it was going to work under the last Conservative government because they were staying in the ECHR, but there was a development there of a third country deportation scheme that a lot of taxpayers' money had been invested into, and I think it was incumbent on this government to at least try and pursue that to its logical conclusion within the parameters that obviously they would operate in, because they wouldn't leave the ECHR either. But, you know, in 2029 we're 100% getting a new sort of centre-right government that is undoubtedly going to have to adopt a position of mass deportations, and that will require a third-party country to deport them to. And if we're leaving the ECHR, which both the Conservatives and Reform say we will, this is a perfectly viable, it was a perfectly viable scheme, and it was something that really could have, if it had been continued under Labour, been picked up on day one and almost borne fruit very, very quickly, because a big problem is a number of these individuals that we are struggling to remove to their countries of origin for whatever reason, and therefore we do need that kind of escape valve of a third country to send those that we can't get back to their original country from.
Exactly right. Now, just to finish on a note of comedy, because we always talk about such serious issues with you, Robert, let's have a bit of a laugh, though. Let's talk about the one-in, one-out scheme, shall we, very briefly. Turns out that since it was initiated in September, the new totals are out. We have deported back to France, drum roll, 281 migrants, and they have sent here 350 migrants. So that's the one in, one out. Doesn't quite work out mathematically. 281 to France, 350 back. So we're losing. And since then, since this ludicrous scheme started, more than 10,000 have arrived illegally in small boats. This is a sick joke, and a very expensive one too. When are they going to ditch this madcap scheme?
I don't think they will, because this is their sort of final offering to solve this problem. This was what they kind of presented as their equivalent of the Rwanda scheme. This is their big, bold solution. And unfortunately, it was inevitable that one side was going to benefit more from a one-in, one-out deal. I mean, it's impossible to match it so that each side ends up with the same number of migrants going in each direction. I'm actually, quite frankly, astounded by the discrepancy here that we've taken so much
we're losing, folks. You know,
badly as well.
Yeah, we're losing badly. But it doesn't really matter because the numbers are so minuscule anyway.
Well, even if it was up and running in the best possible imagination of what this scheme would look like, we'd only be sending back 2,500 a year. Best case scenario, in, you know, 45, 50,000.
It's hugely expensive.
Tiny percentage of exactly, and it's just diverting resources, diverting political capital, officials, sort of bandwidth as well. It's all a huge waste of time, and unfortunately I just don't see what else Labour can actually do now, what else they can do to offer to solve this problem. And unfortunately, you know, last year was a bumper year. This year is looking like it's going to be one of the biggest Januaries on record. Keir Starmer is now on the cusp of being the Prime Minister with the worst record on small boats. This is a situation that they might think it's gone away because it's been quiet for the last 7 or so days, but this is still going to define this Parliament, the small boats crisis. Just
to recap, that's 281 migrants we've sent back to France on the one-in, one-out scheme. They've sent 350 to us, so we're losing. 281 started in mid-September, the scheme. Since then, more than 10,000 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel unlawfully in small boats. This, folks, is a sick joke, an absolute farce, and it's costing you hundreds of millions of pounds. Isn't that special? Robert Bates from the Centre for Migration Control, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming in. Next up, we are going to talk about Nut Zero, Ed Miliband's threat to our economy. Who's attacking him? A major trades union. He won't like that. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's play a quick voice note. This is from Pat, and it's on the migrants.
Every migrant that arrives on these shores should be given some instruction or some leaflets or something with the instructions to say that they can't rape or abuse people. And if they do, they should list all the punishments they're likely to get. They may think twice then.
I agree with that, Pat. I would also give them another thing, a return ticket to wherever they came from. But yeah, good WhatsApp voice note from Pat there. Let's move on. Let's talk about the net zero crisis. This is the latest fit of madness on the part of that dangerous lunatic, crazy Ed Miliband, our nut zero secretary, cabinet secretary, and he's being attacked by a major union. This is significant facts, folks. Let's talk to the environment editor at the Daily Sceptic, Chris Morrison. Welcome, Chris.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
As I say, this is significant because this isn't the first time that Ed Miliband has been attacked by a union, but this is big. This is the Scottish Secretary of the GMB union, Louise Gilmore, who says that Ed Miliband's delusional net zero policies are causing arguably the most destructive industrial calamity in our nation's history. He's talking about, she is talking about 200 jobs per week being lost because of Labour's ban on North Sea exploration. And she's talking about companies, oil and gas firms, paying 120% tax on their profits because of the government's energy profits levy. This guy, Miliband, I mean, this is getting serious, Chris. This guy is going to bankrupt this country.
This a particular piece from the Scottish Secretary of the GMB is in this new report from the Jobs Foundation, and it talks about, it's basically about Aberdeen, which it says is at the centre of this net zero madness. And I read the report today. I knew I was coming on the programme. And those of us who like our headlines in popularist terms, bombshell describes it. It's an absolute bombshell of a report. It should be read by everybody who's interested in net zero. And this particular lady from the GMB is writing the foreword. And you're quite right. The phrase that stuck in my mind is the one that you've just read out about this is an industrial calamity on a scale that we've not seen in our history. And she was talking also worse than the closing of the mines. And the report itself goes into great detail about how Aberdeen is being just bombed out as a city by this ridiculous net zero. The unions are now very, very worried that all the jobs are going. Aberdeen was a small fishing town in about 1969. They discovered oil. It became the oil capital of Europe. It's a wonderful place to live and to earn money, and it's a reasonably well-off city because of the oil, and that is all being taken away from them. And the unions have finally woken up to what's happening. She obviously is very unhappy about the fact that we stopped drilling for oil and gas. She made one point that she said that, and of course she goes on, and the report goes on about the lack of jobs created by net zero. At one point, they described GB Energy, which they've set up there as a joke.
The mysterious GB Energy.
Yes, it was described in the report by somebody as a joke. She describes, I think it was her, or it might have been in the report. No, it was her, in fact. All the foundations, 2,300 ton foundations for wind farms being delivered to ports in Scotland from 9,000 miles away, made by the Chinese. We can't even make now, because we have no reliable power, cheap power, we can't even make the foundations for the wind farms that are taking away all of their jobs. This is a tragedy for Aberdeen. This is and this is going to come...
and the country, Chris. This is a let's put this into context. GMB, the GMB union, is the third biggest donor to the Labour Party. They give it more than £1 million. It has 560,000 members, and its General Secretary, or Scottish Secretary, Louise Gilmore, as you say, is not pulling her punches. And Paul Nowak, the General Secretary of the TUC, also has been extremely sceptical. So this man, Ed Miliband, is actually now falling foul of the big supporters of the Labour Party who are saying you are destroying our members' jobs. I'm hearing that as many as 200,000 jobs may go down the drain because of his ban on North Sea exploration and drilling. I mean, I cannot get my head around why this government allows this madman to do this to us. He has set us on a collision course with outright national bankruptcy, hasn't he?
Well, we used to call him Mad Miliband. I don't call him that anymore. I call him Sinister Miliband, because I do wonder how. It's a neo-Malthusian command and control net zero agenda that they're following. They don't seem to care who they destroy. They are going to destroy the industrial base of this country. We are, as a country, the canary in the coal mine. Aberdeen is the city canary in our country. All these jobs will go. And if you look at all the nonsense they come up with, how wind is cheaper than gas and all this lunatic stuff that they still talk about. If you look also at the jobs, you look at what the ONS showed. There are twice as many people employed in environmental advocacy and charities than there are employed in actually the wind business. Gary Smith is another chap who came out of the woodwork last year and talked about how the only jobs he sees when he looks out to the North Sea, to the wind farms, is a man in a boat picking up all the dead birds.
Yes, but it kills a lot of birds, these windmills, as well. Donald Trump's very worried about that. Another reason I like the American president. But Ms. Gilmore, Louise Gilmore, writes in this report, in the foreword, our government, governments, she's talking about Westminster and Holyrood up in Scotland, seems stricken, almost delusional in the face of onrushing disaster, insisting we must ignore today's reality and believe in tomorrow's dreams. She also, talking of GB Energy, she says that Miliband's claims of 400,000 jobs in renewables being created in the UK are basically just a lot of hot air that not even windmills could cause. It's just extraordinary. It's just extraordinary.
And I think it's wake-up time now, because the people of Aberdeen should have realised what was happening. They have elected, let's be honest about it, they have elected a Scottish national government in the last 10, 20 years. They were devoted to net zero. They made it quite clear. Alex Salmond used to say that he wanted to turn Scotland into the Saudi Arabia of wind. Aberdeen itself has a Green MP in its constituency role for the Scottish Parliament. What are they doing voting for these people? If you want to stop this sort of madness, then I would argue don't vote for people who state quite clearly that they are going to go for net zero, because this is what net zero looks like. Net zero is a destructive societal and economic disaster area. Also in the report, it mentions, for instance, we just tend to talk about electricity and the wind power that's producing it. We still rely on oil and gas for 75% of our energy. We rely on it for all our plastics. We rely on it to make all our fertilizers. That means we have enough to eat. I could go on and on and on. And so when Miliband, this sinister character, is going around stopping people actually drilling, he is stopping a resource, a hydrocarbon source that is used everywhere. It's not just the energy. As I say, it's in everything else. 75%, as I say, of our energy is still oil and gas.
Honestly, Chris, we are in the hands of an utter madman, unless we forget, folks, that this is affecting all of us. It's not just all these hundreds of thousands of jobs that are going down the pan, the economy generally. This is why you, me, Chris, everybody is paying the highest energy prices on the face of the earth because of Ed Miliband. Let me know what you think about our friend Mr. Ed. 0344 499 1000. Chris, thank you very much. Always good to have you on the show. Chris Morrison there, environment editor of the Daily Skeptic. Let me know what you think about what Chris is saying. He's absolutely right. This nut zero stuff is just insanity incarnate. It is destroying this country's economy. It is destroying hundreds of thousands of jobs. It is sending your energy bills soaring to extraordinary levels, the highest in the world, 5 times higher than in America. How much longer are we supposed to put up with this derangement? Please let me know. 03444991000. And let's go straight up to Aberdeen to talk to somebody who must know all about this because he lives there. That is caller John. John, thanks for ringing. What is your fine city thinking about what Ed Miliband has done to you?
Well, in fact, Aberdeen has long been the backbone of the United Kingdom for the oil industry.
Yeah.
The situation here is we had a fishing industry that they destroyed, and then we get to an oil industry. We have something like 165 men who died in Piper Alpha so that we could get the oil into the country. Most of the money doesn't retain in Aberdeen at all. It ends up in Westminster, and it's been used extensively for taxed allowances for the Conservative Party originally. But when we get to a situation where we have got someone like, well, let me just say he's a bampot, is a guy who's got no sense at all about what the country needs for manufacturing and industry. Now, we are just ruining the fact that we need cheap electricity, and we're spending the most on electricity in manufacturing. And poor old people of this country who have worked all their lives are paying the most expensive of electricity in the whole world. You know, what kind of situation do you get where you're actually importing oil and gas from a border in the North Sea where Norway is one of the richest countries.
Yeah, because they're actually using this fantastic resource, one of the greatest reserves of energy in the entire world beneath the North Sea. Norway is using it. We have a nutcase, Ed Miliband, and a useless Prime Minister who ban us from using it. The madness of it, John, is off the scale. Listen, I've got to move on, but thank you for an excellent call and my sympathy. Aberdeen's a great place. It doesn't deserve this. John in Aberdeen there. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about a bit of police madness. You won't believe this one. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's get my next guest on, and then we'll go through this story, which you simply will not believe. It is just a case of staggering police incompetence and a really, really traumatic experience for the victim. So welcome to the show, our favourite former cop, former Met Police detective, currently on a national tour, Peter Blexley. How you doing, Pete?
Very well, thank you.
Good to have you on board. Let's talk about this extraordinary story. This happened in Cricklewood, a nice area of North London, not far from where I live. In fact, safely far enough away from where I live, I guess. Now, this guy's called Roy Morton. He's a former well-known English National Ballet dancer, and he danced with the National Opera as well, and had a storied career. He's had several film appearances and so on and so forth. Well, he got mixed up by the cops, by the Met Police, with a guy who was a black young man. A black young man was the suspect they were after. The cops burst into Roy Morton's home, who is white and who is 80 years old, and basically sort of smashed the place up and tasered him, thinking that they had their suspect. You might have thought that if they were on the lookout for a black young male suspect, that an 80-year-old white former ballet dancer wouldn't quite fit the description, but they weren't taking any chances. They tasered him. 80 years old. I don't think you should taser 80-year-olds in the first place. Let's just, before we get your thoughts, Pete, let's have a listen to Mr. Morton, who spoke to the BBC about this.
Looking for a black man who's 6 foot tall with a gun. I'm an 80-year-old white Englishman. I'm 5'8", 10.5 stone. Do I look like that? 3 weeks ago, I was, you know, a grounded, reasonably healthy pensioner, you know, enjoying his retirement. Now I'm just, well, mentally I'm a wreck, really, because I just feel insecure and depressed.
Well, the guy they were looking for, gun-toting 26-year-old black guy, because of this egregious mistake, Pete, the Scotland Yard has paid Mr. Morton £50,000 and apologised. We wholeheartedly apologise to Mr. Morton and understand the impact this incident has had. How, Pete, do the police, when on the lookout for a 26-year-old black guy with a gun, how do they come to taser a white guy who's 80 years old and used to be a ballet dancer? How does that happen?
We often hear about how firearms officers have to make split-second decisions. And of course, they're cut some kind of slack because of that, if, on occasion, they get it wrong. But the confusion here between, as you've clearly highlighted, a 26-year-old black man and a 80-year-old white man is very, very stark. And it makes me wonder what kind of split-second decision-making went on there. Now, we're told that the confusion about the address arose from a mistake that the call handler gave. Now, I'm going to throw my hands up here and say that many years ago, when I carried a gun, myself and some colleagues went into the wrong address and disturbed a couple who were fast asleep in their beds at 2 o'clock in the morning. For them, a traumatic incident. We were horrified as a team, absolutely horrified at the mistake we had made. Myself and my colleague who had the guns were sent far, far away to get us out of the picture. And then as a team, the remainder stayed there with these people. They stayed there until the front door had been repaired the following morning. They stayed with them throughout. Flowers were bought. They were taken out for dinner. Profound apologies were issued from the very, very start of proceedings. It didn't take years, like it's taken the Met, to apologise to this gentleman. They've taken years. They've dragged it through the courts. That's the unforgivable bit. The Met should have been at that gentleman's front door with their checkbook the day of the incident or the following morning. That's what should have happened.
Absolutely. Now, this happened on December the 28th, 2021, so it was, you know, during the festive Christmas festivities. And obviously, this happened at 7:13 a.m., 7 o'clock in the morning. Quite a traumatic start. Obviously, Mr. Morton sort of put up some kind of resistance and said you got all this wrong. So he was then arrested for a fray and detained for 11 hours after being tasered. Now, the Met Police are saying, we hope Mr. Morton is able to move forward and we thank him for his patience during this process. So we have reviewed the circumstances of this incident to identify any learnings and implemented specific training procedures to avoid similar instances in the future. This includes delivering training to each and every call handler within the Met. Well, you know, what So what are they saying? That before this happened, it was very likely that police officers wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a 26-year-old black guy with a gun and an 80-year-old former white ballet dancer. But now, because lessons have been learned, they will be able to tell the difference. I mean, this is pathetic. And as you say, 2021 this happened, December 2021. Yeah. So what are we? 5 years on and he's only just got the money. That's outrageous.
Yeah, the words just ring hollow to you, me, and I'm sure your audience, and we weren't subjected to this ordeal. How Mr. Morton must feel, one can only imagine. It's the length of time, I think, that has heaped so much harm upon hurt, upon disappointment, upon outrage. The amount of time, and this is when the Met hides behind legal process, is disconnected from what real people have to go through. And if those people in charge got out of their ivory towers from behind their desks and were at that gentleman's front door the following morning with a fulsome apology and a checkbook, things might have been a lot different. But they drag it through the courts, drag, causing more hurt, more concern and more stress. And that is utterly unforgivable.
Just imagine this, folks. You're a totally innocent 80-year-old man. In come all these cops, smash through your door with submachine guns, smashing him through the door, tasering him, pinning him to the floor and handcuffing him because they mixed up the address. I mean, it's just not acceptable, is it, Pete?
No, and they took it right to the brink of a trial. That's unforgivable. 5 days was set aside for a civil trial over Mr. Morton suing the Metropolitan Police. It's this utterly unnecessary brinkmanship that they play with people when they knew they were banker rights. The Met absolutely knew from day one that they got this manifestly wrong. And yet their collective corporate cowardice prevents them from rocking up and making what's wrong better. They're never going to completely apologise or completely wipe from the slate the trauma that they've caused Mr. Morton, but dragging it on right to the steps of the court. That's utterly unforgivable, and it shows the disconnect between those in charge at Scotland Yard and the people who live everyday lives.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Peter. So this happened on the December the 28th, 2021. Within a month, they'd issued a public apology and then dragged it out and out and out. And they've only just paid him the 50 grand. As his lawyer, Rachel Harger, said, there was an early public acknowledgement that a serious error had occurred, yet Mr. Morton was forced to pursue proceedings to the brink of a trial to achieve any finality. I think what she means is any semblance of justice. Absolutely disgraceful. Pete, thanks very much. Where are you on tonight? Are you performing?
Yeah, Queen's Theatre at Hornchurch, but it's sold out, as is Stevenage tomorrow and other venues. So please, everybody, go to entertainers.co.uk and get your tickets early to avoid disappointment.
So you're selling out all over the country. Can you lend me some money, please? Pete, it's great to talk to you. Good luck tonight. Pete's on a national tour, touring theatres, a show about policing and all his cases. Apparently, it's a hell of a show, selling out all over the country. Peter Blexley, superstar. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk to Jake Wallace-Simon about Holocaust Day, a very important day. So Jake Wallace-Simon next on Holocaust Day. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Today is Holocaust Day, when we remember the greatest crime in the history of humanity, the extermination of 6 million Jews by the Nazis in Germany in concentration camps. This is a very important day. We'll get on to some of the nuances of what's happened in recent times in a little while. For some reason, since October the 7th, another great crime against humanity, when Hamas massacred more than 1,200 innocent Jews, invading Israel that dark day. For some reason, since then, the number of schools in Britain commemorating the Holocaust has more than halved. What the hell is that about? Well, let's talk to author, columnist, author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, Jake Wallace-Simons. Welcome, Jake.
Hi, good evening.
First of all, tell us why Holocaust Day is important and why we shouldn't, like so many schools these days, it seems, be forgetting it.
Well, Holocaust Memorial Day is obviously important for Jews as a day of mourning. We are only really 2 generations away from the Holocaust. There are Holocaust survivors still alive around us. And of course, if the Holocaust had not taken place, there'd be many, many more Jews alive today, both in across Eastern Europe and indeed here in Britain. So that's important for Jews, but it's also important for wider society. And I think that the crucial lesson of the Holocaust has got to be that evil exists, you have to recognise it, and sometimes you have to fight it and defeat it. And that's a lesson which I'm afraid we are beginning to forget in Britain. We're unwilling these days to recognise enemies for what they are, to acknowledge what they want to do to us, to combat them, and to stop them, whether it's with regard to anti-Semitism or people who wish to harm ourselves and our broader way of life. And so the forgetting of the Holocaust is worrying, because I think it shows that we've forgotten who we are. You know, I present a podcast called The Brink, and my co-podcaster, Andrew Fox, who presents it with me, is a former parachute regiment officer, and he fights hard to defend Israel and Jews against smears and slurs. And the reasons that he does so are because, firstly, his grandfather was one of those who liberated one of the concentration camps in Eastern Europe. And secondly, because when he served in Afghanistan, he lost 12 friends. One of them was a proud Jew, a close friend of his, who he lost under his command. And that has inspired him to stand up against anti-Semitism. And it's just sad, I think, tragic, that men like Andrew no longer represent the centre of gravity in our country, but they represent a vanishing Britain that's being taken over by an obsession with multiculturalism, a suicidal empathy towards Islamist extremists and others who wish us harm, and a disregard for the memory of the Holocaust. You know, in 2023, 2,000 schools, before the October the 7th atrocities, 2,000 secondary schools in Britain marked the Holocaust. Today, only 854. What has changed? Well, October the 7th happened. You know, it just goes to show that Hamas may have been defeated largely in Gaza, but when it comes to the battlefield of here in the West, I'm afraid to say it's winning.
I've asked you this before, Jake, but I remain in a state of confusion over it. October the 7th, 2 years ago, you know, this appalling extermination of 1,200 innocent Jews, you know, many of them women raped, babies put in ovens, babies beheaded, the most appalling atrocity. And the net result of which appears to be, in this country and other countries, an explosion of anti-Semitism. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Jewish people were the victims of what happened on October the 7th. Why are people rallying to the other side and rounding on the Jewish victims? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add to that about 24 Arab Israelis, Muslims and Christians were killed on October the 7th as well. 8 Arabs were taken hostage. Arabs saved the lives of their Jewish compatriots in Israel and then fought in the IDF against Hamas subsequently. But you're right to say that the vast majority were Jews. But, you know, I think that Hamas knows us better than we know ourselves. And what it knows about us was summarized by Israel's first female Prime Minister, Golda Meir, when she said, "The world hates a Jew who hits back, the world loves us only when we are to be pitied. Hamas knows that that's the condition of the world at large, and that's why it committed those atrocities against 1,200 innocents, men, women, children, rape, mutilation, kidnap, even necrophilia, and then retreated into Gaza to hide amongst civilians in the hope that Israel, in attacking Hamas, would harm inevitably those innocent civilians, and Hamas would be able to use that in its propaganda. And I'm afraid to say that Britain and the West at large has embraced that propaganda, has magnified it, has swallowed it, and has amplified Hamas's message, which is that it's not jihadism that's the problem, it's the existence of Jews, and in particular, the Jewish state. Now, sooner or later, we are going to find out, as we found out at the Manchester Arena bombings and the numerous terror attacks in London and elsewhere, that actually jihadism is the problem, both for Israelis and Jews and for the West at large. And the fact that Hamas has convinced us that it's not jihadism that's the great evil, it's somehow the existence of the Middle East's only democracy, brings shame upon our gullibility and shames us really in terms of our courage for standing up against evil, which should be what Holocaust Memorial Day is all about.
Yeah, and shame on Keir Starmer for rewarding Hamas for the October the 7th atrocity by recognising Palestine. Again, what the hell is that all about? Let me ask you, just before you go, Jake, I wanted to get your take on this. Now, we all know what happened in Birmingham. Well, let's talk about the problem with the police. The police, the West Midlands police, basically just said to the Muslim community, basically extremists in Birmingham, what would you like us to do about these Jewish fans who may be arriving, supporters of Maccabi Tel Aviv? Oh, we'd like you to ban them. OK, we'll do that. In other words, two-tier policing, favouring Muslims, and to hell with the Jews as far as the police are concerned. This is what happened last Saturday, just gone, in Whitechapel in East London, a very Muslim area. Now, this wasn't about Jewish. This was about, to be fair, it was UKIP. They wanted to march for Jesus through Whitechapel. Now, you could say that's slightly provocative, very Muslim area. However, they should have the right to do that. The police, the Met Police, banned that march, saying they couldn't risk the Muslim community attacking that march. What they've got to do is to tell the Muslim community, you can't do that, and if you even talk about it, we will arrest you. How much longer are our coppers going to be subordinate to the wishes and the desires of the Muslim community, basically over every other kind of community, Jewish and Christian?
Yeah, there is a real problem here, I think, which is that, look, I'm no fan of UKIP and what they're trying to do in provoking Muslims. But like you say, the problem is the existence of Muslims who are able to be so easily provoked, or at least that's part of the problem. And the police, unfortunately, when faced with a great mob of Islamists, extremists, haven't got the resources or the backbone to do anything about it. And so instead they start to arrest people or ban people for their own safety, so they're not going to become victims of those Muslims. Now, it could be that those people were being provocative in order to point out a problem, and maybe they're extremists of their own. But the problem they're pointing out is very real, which is that all too often the badly resourced police end up doing the Islamists' bidding. You know, there was that video in Aston Villa when Nick Timothy MP went up there and a Muslim extremist said to the police, arrest this dog, take this dog away. And the police proceeded to take Nick Timothy away. I mean, you know...
and also, the point is, Jay, you know, in terms of this UKIP march, you know, protests are meant to be provocative. And it is the police's job to enshrine our right to protest if we want. And they shouldn't just say, oh, look, we've got this Christian march coming through Whitechapel. Is that OK with you, Islamists? No, it's not. All right, leave it with us. We'll ban it. It's got to stop.
Well, I've got to say that, you know, if there was a Muslim demonstration going through a Christian area or through a Jewish area, it would not be stopped in the same way. Unless it was breaking the law by inciting violence. And, you know, I think that, you know, I'm sure the police do not intend to roll out a two-tier system, but often that's what happens.
They are presiding over two-tier justice, there's no doubt about it. Jake, I've got to go, but thank you so much for your time. That's Jake Wallace-Simon on Holocaust Memorial Day. Very, very important, folks. Don't forget, never forget. Ian Duncan-Smith on China next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're just trying to find Ian Duncan Smith, former Tory leader, Sir Ian Duncan Smith. He'll be interesting to talk to about China because, as you know, Never Here Keir Starmer is on his way to China. He's probably there by now. He's going to Beijing. This after last week, him giving the go-ahead to the mega Chinese embassy in the middle of the city, the heart of London's financial district, very controversially. And people are wondering, it's like, how far, you know, are you going to disappear up the backside of Xi Jinping, Mr. Starmer? This is getting a bit much. As Jack Elson, you just heard him saying, the political editor of The Sun, this is a country with an appalling human rights record, and frankly it means us great harm. It is malevolent towards the West. It doesn't like us. What is he doing kissing up to Xi Jinping? We'll talk about that in just a little while we see if we can track down the former Tory party leader. Let's talk to Steve in Cambridgeshire. Hi Steve, you want to talk about Nut Zero? What would you like to say?
Hello Kev. Yeah, I'm a retired gas engineer, and I worked on a couple of council contracts, and they were big into like this net zero thing.
Yeah.
And the biggest plus was they insulated all the house. They were going through the process of insulating the majority of houses they had on their stock.
Okay, well that's a good idea, isn't it? Because you don't. It means that they're more. The houses become more energy efficient, right?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Even the houses with the old-fashioned fires and back boilers, people were telling me they were saving between £200 and £300 a year.
By insulating them, yeah?
Just by insulating them.
Interesting.
So rather than go full-on, like what Miliband wants, heat pumps, because they're useless, why not just super-insulate all the houses so the existing heating systems that are in there can work probably 50% less than they are at the moment.
Well, the thing is, Steve, I think what you're talking is that thing that is a foreign language to our government and to Ed Miliband, common sense. With Ed Miliband, it's all about tokenism. You know, he's got to get heat pumps into houses. He's got to cancel our gas boilers because that sends the green message over at the expense of our expenses and common sense, the kind of common sense you're talking about. Ed Miliband's policies are all about virtue signalling the government's greenery, its commitment to you know, making the world a more ecological place. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all, Steve. But interesting. I mean, what you're saying makes a load of sense to me. But don't try to talk sense to this government. Steve, thanks for that. Good call. Thank you very much, Steve in Cambridgeshire. Let's. We'll just wait. We'll go to one more call because I can see that Ian Duncan Smith is patching into us now, so we'll get him in just a little while. But before that, let's talk to John in Newcastle. Hello, John. You want to talk about Nut Zero as well, do you?
Well, yes. It's amazing, isn't it, what we find out? Climate change, etc., etc. The real reality is about this net zero, whatever you want to call it, is that countries are not involved in it. You know, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, they produce oil. They're not interested in net zero.
Of course they're not.
Look at Russia. Russia supplies Hungary with oil. They're not surprised. Russia's a massive country, and they're not interested in net zero. Yeah. And when you look at countries like China and India...
Well, look at America. I mean, Donald Trump's cancelled net zero, just said we're not doing this anymore, and as a result, their energy prices have plummeted. They're really cheap over there. They're also fracking, drill, baby, drill. If you want a prosperous country with a sensible energy policy, forget about net zero, because net zero is nut zero. It is insane. You're absolutely right, John. Thanks for a great call. John in Newcastle. will. And now I do believe that the former Conservative Party leader, member for Chingford and Woodford Green, Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, is ready for us. Sir Ian, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, sorry, a bit of a delay, but I got the wrong. It's my fault.
Okay, no worries. We got you at last. I want to talk to you about China. I know you're on their hate list, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah.
The Prime Minister is probably touching down in Beijing around about now as we speak. Last week, he gave planning permission. He gave the go-ahead to this mega Chinese embassy. This week, he's over there allegedly chasing trade deals. And it is getting worrying, is it not? That, you know, China, of course, in the real world, you have to deal with them. You have to acknowledge they're an important force that you have to deal with. But their human rights record is abysmal. They are not benevolent towards us. They are malevolent towards Britain. They mean us harm. And we have a Prime Minister over there. It's the first British PM to go there for 8 years, who is basically sucking up to Xi Jinping, a man who does not like us and does not mean us well at all. Do you find it worrying, the way this Prime Minister is sucking up to China?
Yeah, well, of course, you probably know that I've been campaigning against this embassy. I think it's a disaster. It'll be the largest embassy compound in Europe. It sits right next to cables. Now, during the course of all of this row about the embassy, the government kept saying to us, what turned out to be a pack of lies, that somehow, oh, don't worry, the cabling's all fine, it's not really important, we can cope with it. As soon as they've given the go-ahead, what do we find? They're now saying, oh, actually, we're going to have to move the cabling at huge cost to the British taxpayer and also massive disruption to places like the City of London, Canary Wharf, even the security services. This is madness. And the problem we've got with China is, you're right, it isn't benign at all. China is determined to take itself back to the and the world, to that matter, to the time when most countries were ruled by dictators, benevolent or otherwise. They had this meeting about 2 or 3 months ago where they had Putin and Kim Jong-un and representatives of Iran and other countries, including Myanmar. And what they said to the key ones is, we are now going to forge a new world order. Now, the New World Order was built on the way that China works. That China thinks that basically democracy, human rights, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, all those things are rubbish. They don't allow them inside China. If you are a Christian trying to practice your Christianity, you get arrested and sent to prison, put into hard labor. So we've got genocide taking place in Xinjiang, where they're literally trying to eradicate the Uyghur Muslims there. Tibet, they're eradicating the Tibetans, particularly the men, who are all in labor camps, as are the Uyghur. You can go on and on and on. They've threatened to invade Taiwan. They have taken over the South China Seas illegally. The UN condemned it still. They don't care. They're militarizing it. They're spending more money now on their defense forces and intend to overtake the United States in naval and military power. It is now forecast that they will do that in about 2 years. What they build now in naval ships is astonishing. Any one shipyard in China builds probably more ships, naval ships, than America or even probably Europe combined. They are hell-bent on being in the position where they can dictate terms, but their terms are abusive terms. And Jimmy Lai, locked up in prison, a British citizen, on trumped-up charges, many others like him. Democracy campaigners have fled to the UK. China now spies on them here, threatens them, drags them into illegal police stations, tells them about their family getting abused if they don't go home. They put bounties on their heads of $1 million Hong Kong dollars. They tell local neighbors to bring them in which case they'll get the bounty. I mean, this list goes on. I'm sorry, I'm only halfway through, but I'll stop there. It is astonishing that this government thinks that they can go kowtow on bended knee, begging China for trade, when what will they get? They'll get steel dumped on them, overproduced in China, bad domestic market, batteries, electric cars, arrays, solar arrays, wind farms. They're going to dump all of their overproduced stuff on us, much of it made by slave labor, by the way, and we will turn a blind eye. In fact, Miliband, up until when we managed to stop him recently, was busy and happily taking solar arrays we knew were made using slave labor and we've managed to get an amendment in to stop that happening. But they were doing that. They're all over the UK, slave-made products. I mean, amazing, really.
And of course, China is central to Miliband's insanity, is deranged energy policies, insofar as these giant windmills that he's infesting our entire country with are made in China using fossil fuels. So China, so there we are polishing our halos. Oh, look, we've got windmills and we're doing so much for the environment. Well, we're buying them from China, which makes them with its 1,100 fossil fuel power stations. And by the way, they're building 300 more, and they are exploring for more coal and more fossil fuels. So they are central to the insanity of our net zero madness. They're taking us for a ride. And when you talked earlier, Serene, about their various human rights abominations, do you have confidence that Sir Keir will bring that up with Xi Jinping?
Well, I think it'll be like this. Keir Starmer will sit down with Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping will say, have we got our embassy yet? And until that, basically, we're not interested. Yes, we've called it in, and now we've given it permission. And then he will say to him, but I would like to raise the issue of Jimmy Lai. President Xi, mind your own damn business. Okay, can we talk about something else? That's what will happen.
Yeah, and don't forget, Serene, I think it was just before we gave the go-ahead to the mega embassy, over in Beijing, what the Chinese had done, they'd cut off the water and the electricity and the power to Britain's embassy there, saying that, and you won't get it put back in unless you give us the mega embassy. So we go, oh, fair enough. Let's. You can.
Well, there's a judicial review going to take place on this decision, I can tell you, because the government's had its hands in this process illegally from start to finish. I mean, it's mad. It's mad, the location. If they want a large embassy, then it should be somewhere where they're not going to interfere with communications or be in a position to be able to threaten Chinese dissidents. So all of that has been swept to one side by the British government. And it is the government actually that's very weak, desperate for growth. They're not going to get growth from China. What they will get is an end to British manufacturing markets. So, for example, the car industry, when it's flooded by these cheap Chinese electric cars, whilst Miliband is busy threatening anybody that doesn't drive an electric car or doesn't buy one with huge extra costs, as they already have done on British industry, we will be uncompetitive. China will move that in. Slab steel, which they've overproduced, they're ready to import and stamp British steel on it. We won't have a proper made British steel industry anymore. You can go through the list of these things. And you were right about oil and gas. The fact is, we're the only country that is as bonkers as we are at the moment to decide that we can rely completely, essentially, on electricity produced by wind farms. Wind farms produce electricity, that's true. But they also produce it when we can't use it. And the result of that is it just disappears. It cannot be used. And storage is bonkers. It would cost us half the country to be able to store batteries enough to hold it long enough for it to be used later. All of these things are pie in the sky. But if you question net zero, you are an apostate. Rather like the old attacks on us by the Inquisition. That is exactly what happens here. And
climate deniers. We're climate deniers, which
completely.
is an appalling crime, apparently.
Meanwhile, supposedly we are okay because we have gas. Well, most of our gas is no longer from the North Sea. President Trump was right about that. We sit on an island of oil and gas, but we buy our gas from other countries so that we can say that our emission targets are all being met. Well, they're not being met because they're being met in some other country. And by the way, other countries that don't pay their workforces properly and are a real difficulty, as some in the Middle East are. So we are running this just hypocrisy at less than 1% of global emissions. And what we're doing is constantly now driving our industry into huge cost. We have the most expensive electrical production and electricity energy prices
in the world,
in the developed world, and now in the whole of the undeveloped world.
Also, don't forget,
it's astonishing.
It really is. And don't forget, we of course polished our halo and banned fracking because that's bad for the environment. It's going to cause earthquakes in Blackpool. No, it's not. But we buy in a load of fracked energy from America. It is crazy.
It's ironic.
Yeah, it's beyond ironic.
And by the way, you're right about the gas the coal and others. They use dirty brown coal in China. They get it cheap. They build about one power station every 2 weeks. And they also, by the way, hunt oil production everywhere in the world. The reason for the Venezuela business was as much as anything to cut China off from being able to get its hands on the resources that come out of Venezuela, which is the largest single place that has oil in reservoirs larger than anywhere else in the world. So America decided that's it. They don't want China getting it. They are egregious in snapping up oil and gas and coal, and that's how they win it. They want to be the world's most powerful nation. And all I can say to these rather wet and weak politicians that we seem to have kicking around, sometimes you cannot reason, as they said, with a tiger when your head is in its mouth, and our head will be very heavily in its mouth.
That is a good analogy. Can I ask you a couple of unrelated questions before you go? Your reaction, please, Surian, to Suella Braverman leaving your great party and defecting to Reform UK yesterday?
Well, I wasn't surprised, I'm be honest with you, because I had pretty much believed that she would probably go. I was sad to see her go. I'm fond of her. But she must go to the choice that she makes. And my personal view is we just have to get on with demonstrating after, accepting that the Conservative government, I wasn't in it, but the Conservative government, my party, made mistakes. No other government, by the way, was battered by anything like COVID ever in the history since the Second World War. And you think about the cost and the problems, and the mistakes were made during that, I'm afraid, in other countries too. But so all of those things have led to mistakes in the last government. We have to put those right. We have to recognize that we have to do what is right by the country. And we have made decisions on key areas like, getting rid of the Convention of Human Rights, being able to ship people that are here illegally out. I mean, we had the Rwanda scheme. It will work. It would have worked, except the court rejected it. But we'll get rid of that and make sure they go. And I promise you, one thing would happen almost immediately. The moment you start shipping regular aircraft out with people who are illegal and denied to come here, what will happen is they will stop paying money to the gangs to get them over here. A huge cost, by the way. They pay a lot of money to get over here and to risk their lives. They won't do it. That will be the deterrent, and we have to get that done as soon as possible. This government had half a brain, and I'm afraid they don't. They would already have moved to that plan straight away and said, we're just going to sort out the Convention of Human Rights, but they won't.
I find that one of the most annoying things about this government, Yvette Cooper's fond of saying this, the Rwanda scheme did not work. No, Yvette, it did not start. That was the problem with it. Now, one last question, if you don't mind. I know you wouldn't like to intrude on private grief, but Andy Burnham up in the north has been speaking. If you just watch this is Andy Burnham, I think, speaking to Sky News in the last few minutes.
It is simply untrue to say that I was told that I would be blocked, so I can't say any more than that. I went through the whole weekend having conversations with people in Number 10, people in senior positions of the party, to discuss the pros and cons, and that's all I can say. It's simply untrue to say that there was a message given that I would definitely be blocked, because after all, the NEC is meant to be an independent body. So how could somebody say that it's definitely going to be blocked if they are an independent body? So it doesn't stack up what they are saying, and it is simply untrue.
So Andy Burnham there making his feelings clear. Surian, what's your take on this? We know why Keir Starmer blocked him. And funnily enough, I think he would have walked that Gorton and Denton by-election because the people of that fine constituency would have been offered the chance to deliver their verdict on whether or not they want a new Prime Minister. I bet you Burnham would have walked that. Now he's been blocked. I don't think Labour will win it. So Keir Starmer arguably has sacrificed a constituency to save his own job, to save his own backside in Number 10 Downing Street. What is your verdict on this internal Labour psychodrama?
Well, I know Andy Burnham very well. We used to play football together, and I've always got on pretty well with him. I set up a thing called the Centre for Social Justice. We look at how to strengthen the normal structures of life in the communities to be able to protect their children, etc. And he's been very good on that in Manchester, taking some of our policies and making them and showing that they work. So we've had a lot of correspondence with him. I've met him on many occasions again. All I would say is it's been a peculiar way to treat somebody who is doing significant work that actually may improve the image of the Labour Party. So I think it's been a bit trashy, the way they behaved. Yes, have they done it to stop him coming in because they're worried about what happens? I'm sure that would be the opinion of everybody. Having said that, they probably don't want to have another mayoral election because that could end up in a disaster.
Well, they'd lose that as well, wouldn't they?
Well, I wouldn't bank now on them holding that seat, because
I don't think they will. I'm not now.
There'll be a lot of vote drifting, even from the left up there, from Labour. So I think that they've sacrificed that seat in their own minds for what they might consider to be the greater good. But I have to say, you haven't probably heard the last of Andy Burnham. I think this will rear its head again and again and again. I think, they seem to have a problem with their Prime Minister. I do too. So.
Yeah, we all have a problem with that Prime Minister. Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Yes, Ian Duncan-Smith, former Tory leader there on China and on, of course, the Andy Burnham psychodrama, which continues apace. What do you think, folks? Let me know. Give me a call. Why did Keir Starmer block Andy Burnham from standing in the Gorton and Denton by-election? Do you believe it was because they thought a mayoral election would be too expensive? Do you believe that they thought Andy was doing such a good job they didn't want him to go back to the Commons? Or do you believe that the Prime Minister Keir Starmer felt that Andy Burnham, once in the House of Commons, would have staged a massive challenge to his leadership and damn well won? What do you think? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we're going to talk about flags, I do believe. A Labour council is under fire because it's going to be flying the Pride flag, I think, for about the next month. Not supposed to do that. We'll talk about that when we come back, so stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Get your calls in, folks. Let me know what you think about Nut Zero, Miliband, another threat to our economy. How dangerous is this man? 0344 499 1000. What is our Prime Minister doing in China exactly? Why is he there? Why is he the first PM to go to Beijing in 8 years? 0344 499 1000. Let's play a quick voice note on that issue of Nut Zero, Net Zero, I should call it. This is Tristan.
I work in the energy industry and I've said it for so many years. I said it when I was at one of the big six that net zero is catastrophic. And everyone was at a laugh and a bit of a joke because of people annoyed about it. It is getting to the point, as you've said, and as many people have said, it is breaking the economy. It's going to bankrupt us. It's so simple. There's absolutely no common sense or logic. We've got Norway that are drilling. It's crazy. And they're taking it from the North Sea, which is our North Sea. It's madness. It just has to stop. It has to stop.
Tristan's exactly right. I mean, we are just caught in a swirling mass of Ed Miliband's lunacy, and we have a Prime Minister who goes along with it. This is just crazy, folks. 0344 499 1000. Let's talk about flags. Ipswich Borough Council has pledged that it wants to raise a pride flag for 30 days every year until 2030. However, it looks as if that may well be in breach of political neutrality laws under the Local Government Act 1986. Let's talk from the Director of Campaigns at Sex Matters, Fiona McAnena. Welcome, Fiona. Well, they're not supposed to do this, are they, Ipswich Council? And yet they're vowing not only to raise a pride flag, but to raise it for 30 days every year until 2030. They deserve a medal for virtue signalling above and beyond the call of duty for that, don't they?
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. They have a public sector equality duty, so they have to consider the impact of what they do on everyone, and they have to provide services for everyone in their area. And so raising any kind of special group flag is highly questionable. But this is not just any old flag. This is the special trans-inclusive flag with the baby pink and baby blue stripes that say transgender. And the problem there is we all know what that means. That means that no one is allowed to question whether people can change sex. It means that the council may well, and I don't know their policy, may well say that you can use whatever change centre, whatever toilets in the council offices and in the library suit you based on your claimed gender identity. That's where you get to when a council is flying a flag like this. And so, it's a very big problem. It's virtue signalling and it comes cheaply to them, but a lot of people will pay a price for this.
And as you say, this is actually subliminally the promotion of transgender ideology, which you can make up your own minds about, folks. That's up to you, but this isn't the point. This transgresses, it looks as if it transgresses the Local Government Act of 1986. So once again, what we have here is an organisation, a public organisation like the NHS, like so many other organisations, completely ignoring specifically, well, I suppose in this case, the Local Government Act 1986, but also they're going out of their way, aren't they, to ignore the ruling of the Supreme Court on biological sex. That's what they're doing here, like so many organisations, digging their heels in, refusing to accept that the game's up.
Yeah, I think it's a real kick in the teeth to women who live in their area, and plenty of gay men and women too, who think that this obsession with all things trans is not in the best interests of everyone else. Sometimes it's not even good for the people who identify as trans, especially children. So this is a very confusing message. And I think if you work for Ipswich Council and you know that your masters have decided they're going to fly this flag every year, then you know that you cannot question anything that, anything that trans demands kind of might impose on you or on your council, on your colleagues, or on the population, the local people you serve. So it's a very clear message. It's a message to all of us, and it cannot fail to have an impact on how services are provided. And if you're a disabled person, for example, you'd be saying, well, what about me? You've got an obligation to me. Where's my flag? More to the point, where's my bus service?
Yeah, exactly right. Just quickly, this is the port, whatever this is. This is a guy representing Ipswich Borough Council. He is portfolio holder for communities on Ipswich Borough Council, John Cook. He said it's never been an issue in the years we've flown the flag. There's no cost to taxpayers here. Then he says, we will abide by the law. Well, you're breaking the law, John, isn't he?
Well, it's all very well for him to say that, but the thing is, we know this has a chilling effect on everyone else. And I am willing to bet that people who work in that council with that man as their kind of portfolio holder, elected leader, know what's expected of them. When that flag flies, it's a clear message that says, don't say that women's sport is only for women, or that girls in school shouldn't have to share a changing room with boys who say they're trans. And bear in mind that local councils still have control over lots of schools. They have leisure centres, sports facilities. So those things really matter. So it may come at no cost to him, but it does come at a cost to other people.
Fiona, thank you so much for your time. That's Fiona McAnena, the Director of Campaigns at Sex Matters. More flag problems. Why do we have so many problems revolving around flags? It is ridiculous. Listen, let's go to break, shall we? And when we come back, I'm going to be talking to young Bob, Thomas Moffat, the most incredible 17-year-old I've ever spoken to. He was connected to Charlie Kirk's Turning Point organisation here in Britain. Remember Charlie Kirk, the sort of Republican Christian assassinated last year. Also, he was kind of connected to Reform UK. That seemed to be the party he was supporting. Now he's sort of turned his back on Turning Point UK, and he's also decided Reform UK aren't for him. He's an amazing young man. We'll talk to him next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. As I said before the break, with me in the studio is the most remarkable 17-year-old I've ever met. He is Thomas Moffat, known to many by his sort of internet persona of Young Bob. So Young Bob, Thomas Moffat, welcome to the studio. The reason I've got you in here, first of all, you used to be connected to Turning Point, didn't you? Charlie Kirk's organisation, the sort of British angle of that. You've disconnected from that?
Yeah,
why is that?
I stood down. I wish I did it on more amicable terms initially. However, we just disagreed fundamentally on the way that things should have been run here. I understand that the sort of US model of entrenching themselves more into universities and fighting the good fight is less possible and practical. However, we fundamentally just got to a point where we could not agree with the direction of the actual organisation. I wish them well. There are some really good students. I think they're setting up an Oxford chapter. However, I still pledge myself to fight for young people because I believe there's a subversion of what is the more radical solution amongst young people. They've been brought up in a generation of austerity, of unprecedented migrant crisis, and they've been told that left-wing progressivism is the solution to that problem. So I still think there's a good fight. I wish I left on more amicable terms. However, there was just a disagreement when it comes to the management.
So it's bureaucratic more than you know, philosophical, as it were. I mean, yeah, okay. So, but what I wanted to talk to you about was I saw on social media, you'd always, I mean, you know, you're a right of centre, or you're right of centre politically. You're a very committed Christian, of course, very important to you. Your politics are wrapped up with your faith. Good for you for that. But we've always sort of connected you with a kind of Reform UK outlook. But you've posted on Twitter that Reform UK, it transpires, are not for you, and that you will now hitch your wagon to Ben Habib's party, Advance UK. What is it that you have decided is not for you in Reform UK's outlook, but Advance UK is now your future? What is the reason for this decision?
So I want to make it very clear. I don't like this sort of perspective that a lot of the more royal reformers give, that we're just a party in opposition to reform itself. I don't think that. If anything, I'm more happy for reform to win and they actually stand on centre-right-wing politics. However, I've seen a lot of the time the importation of the Tories, which sort of contributed to the problems that reform stand on to give solutions to. I understand the sort of polemic that Nigel Farage gives and saying, well, we're just taking away the talent from the Conservative Party. However, if you look at Sir Weather Braverman, if you look at Robert Jenrick, they all contributed to the migrant crisis that we're all in. And I never like being in opposition to people who are good apologists for the right wing, but actions speak louder of words. And if your actions within government actually contributed to the mess that people are voting their way out of, I don't think that reform will be the solution. So
you are uncomfortable, a lot of reform supporters are the same, you're uncomfortable with this importing, if you like, of more and more Tories into the reform camp?
Yeah, well, I hold to the position that if you defect, you should have a by-election. I understand it's a bit expensive, but even if you look in the past, UKIP did it when they had their only standing MP. They sprung a by-election when the Conservative MP defected to UKIP. So on precedent, I understand there's a conflation between whether you should vote for the person or the party itself, but some people vote for the party because they have a loyalty generationally to the political party itself. So there's a dishonesty there. Most people are voting for reform because it represents genuine change and they're not voting for former Tories. And also Sir Weather Braverman, Robert Jenrick, again, good apologists for the right-wing nationalist movement, but they did contribute to the problems, and many people want to see collective punishment to the Conservative Party. And we're not going to get that if reform are either a retirement home for the Conservative Party or a new outlook for defunct Tories.
I mean, what you're expressing is an opinion that a lot of our audience have, that I mean, and this is the problem for the Tories now, for the Conservative Party as they stand now, Kemi Badenoch's Tories, if you like, is I don't think they're actually fully across just how betrayed millions of traditional Conservatives felt about, or continue to feel, about those 14 years of weird left-wing net zero, let the migrants in conservatism. So David Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, to the average true blue Tory, these people were not conservative, and the supporters of reform, who used to be Tories, feel very, very betrayed by these people, and you would count people like Jenrick and Braverman as being among the traitors, if you like.
Yeah, Boris Wave, Afghan resettlement scheme. Both of these people contributed to each of those schemes, and I think that to sell that they are suddenly reforming to the Reform Party, can we look at their history? Maybe Sir Weather Braverman, because she got a bit of flack from Sunak, but Robert Jenrick, all he did to transform himself was catch a few train dodgers and talk about dodgy tools at a car boot sale. So I don't see a genuine reformation within Jenrick. If anything, everyone admits, even within the reform itself, that he's an opportunist. Sir Weather Braverman, rhetorically, I think she has been consistent. I was reporting when she was out there in Watersville in her constituency fighting for the alleged HMOs being put in her area. So I have respect for her in that respect. However, Jenrick just seems totally dishonest. He has a lot of career admirations. I'm assuming when Kemi saw the communications between him and Reform, she decided to kick him out. He saw no career prospects within the Conservative Party or as an independent, so he joined for Reform.
And as a representative of the younger generation, and a surprising number of younger people now are not traditionally, as they always have been, sort of extremely left-wing and communist, but quite a few young people are now right of centre, have a right-leaning outlook on life. So as a representative of those people, young right-wing people, do you see a good home for them in Reform, or do you think Advance UK are better? What is it that attracts you to Advance UK over Reform?
I would say, firstly, having interviewed the Welsh leader for Advance UK, having interviewed and been with people like Kendall, a woman who's really running up a lot of the youth activism within Advance. I see a lot of authenticity, so that's more of an anecdote towards why I'm more compelled to join that political party. In terms of their Christian understanding of the Constitution, from what I understand, Ricky Doolan, who's a pastor who is within the party itself, told me that there was a Christian committee lobbying for Christian policies. The fact that so many signs within right-wing popularism is that we just immediately go towards giving policies which are totally unobtainable. You've seen this with a lot of the reform councils, slowly giving, and I'm going to be there at their migration conference where they finally release their migration policy platform, slowly giving obtainable policies is far more of a pragmatic solution to right-wing popularism than just YOLOing it, like Reform have done sometimes in order to pick up drastically some votes. And also devolution. I think that's an important one if you're a unionist and a nationalist, cutting the bureaucracy in Wales and Scotland. I think we all should be represented by people in Westminster, and we shouldn't send thousands of pounds for people to be represented in different areas of the country.
So, yeah, okay. And let me ask you an overarching question. What's your verdict on this Labour government and indeed our Prime Minister?
Well, I think one of the contributing factors towards the end of the premiership of Keir Starmer will be Andy Burnham. I don't think it will be the nail in the coffin, so to speak, but it's going to show a trail towards his final end. By the end of the year, I predict that Keir Starmer will have to stand down. I think the lies from the NEC being an independent body to vet candidates is a sign of incredible corruption, and even if you look at Jeremy Corbyn, who I utterly despise as a failed, defunct socialist, what they did to him was totally out of pocket. So there has been a complete removal of what originally Labour is supposed to stand for. I believe in democracy, the free place of ideas, and Labour Party have completely purged themselves of that because Keir Starmer sees himself as a left-wing dictator of centrism, where he has to appease everyone but can't appease no one.
Thomas, great to see you once again, and good luck in Advance UK land. That was young Bob, Thomas Moffat, amazing young man. When we come back, let's talk a bit of sport with Mike Anstead, Head of Content Sport at The Sun. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm with the head of content sport at The Sun, Mike Anstead. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Kev.
First of all, Arteta reveals talks with under fire star. The Arsenal boss has told fans and players to jump on the boat in the ride towards glory. Well, that's all very well, but he better not lose any more games to Man United like that, right?
Well, exactly. Pressure's on at Arsenal. Like, he's feeling it a bit, although he's come out today and is sort of feeling like the sun's out and he's happy. But the players are definitely feeling the pressure. We could tell that in the Man United game, which they lost on Sunday. They've got a Champions League match tomorrow night. They should win and finish top of the group for the knockout stage. That's fine. But around all this is, are they going to bottle it, essentially? Are the players going to bottle it? But I don't think what's helping with this is the fans. The fans were looking a bit
Arsenal fans.
Exactly. A lot of Arsenal fans looking pretty anxious, and you can't really blame them. They've waited 22 years to win the title. Yeah. But he's saying to everyone, just cool it a little bit, calm down. He's used this phrase, jump on the boat, which what he's saying is, look, we're riding this wave. Let's enjoy it. Let's go along with it. We're going to have ups and downs.
And don't panic at this stage. Yeah.
Exactly.
It is the way it goes, isn't it? You lose one match, and
you saw the fans the other night. I mean, it looked like when the camera panned to the fans in the state, you thought we were in like mid-May with 2 games to go. I mean, come on, guys.
These fans of teams like Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea. Yeah, I'm a Fulham fan, and the things they moan about. Oh, we're only 5th in the league and things like that. Well, support a team like mine. You're always worried about relegation. Honestly, they're entitled and spoiled. Oh, you're a West Ham fan.
I'm a West Ham fan. I'd happily swap places with Arsenal fans.
Exactly right. They're entitled and spoilt. These fans. I think Arteta's got a point. Don't panic, you Arsenal's fans, you Gunners fans. If you're out there, peers, on your hospital bed, don't you panic either. Right, let's talk about Liverpool. Slot says that when they got kicked out of the Champions League last season, that's why they won the Premiership. It doesn't explain why they're playing so badly now, does it?
Exactly. This is it's a bit strange on his how he's talking today. He's not quite talking himself out of a job, but I wouldn't say he's kind of full of joy, really. I mean, he's making the point of like, we got knocked out by PSG last year, and that helped us go on and win the league because we only had 1 game a week to play, etc. But I mean, doesn't excuse he spent 420 odd million in the summer and they've gone backwards, fallen off a cliff this season. And do they really? I couldn't understand his point. Was he trying to say, well, we should go out of the Champions League? It wouldn't be a bad thing, or is he trying to suggest that actually things aren't bad as they are? But there's a lot of pressure on Slot.
Damn straight.
They probably should win tomorrow night against Qarabag, but I think fans are really, in the same way fans at Arsenal are feeling the pressure, perhaps unnecessarily, they're definitely feeling the pressure at Anfield, and there's a lot of pressure on him.
Slot's feeling a hell of a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
Last point there, Mike. Raheem Sterling, you just told me, I thought he was about 41. No, I thought he was about 36, but apparently he's 31, never playing for Chelsea. And you're saying that he's expected to leave, even though he's still got a contract?
Yep, still got 18 months left on his contract. He's on 325 grand a week, which is not a bad wage, probably comparable to yours, Kev, I'm sure. But you're right. I mean, he's 31. He's still a young man, you know. And could he still do a job for someone in the Premier League? Potentially. There could be clubs that come in for a loan deal before Monday's deadline. I think close at 7 o'clock on Monday night. If he doesn't leave on loan, there is potential they could rip up his contract, which is a lot of money. I don't know what the payoff would be. That would be sorted out between the two clubs. But yeah, it is strange. This was a guy who was on loan at Arsenal, massive Chelsea signing when the Americans first took over. But he just looks lost at the moment. I mean, he part of the England last World Cup squad. He couldn't be further away at the moment. It's a shame to see. But he's played a lot of football in his career. You know, played for Liverpool when he was 17. He's now 31. So it'd be interesting to see where he goes next.
Yeah, really well.
There's not a queue of clubs lining up for him at the moment, that's for sure.
I think he could do a job for someone. Well, we'll have him at Fulham. We'll have anyone. Listen, Andy, Mike, thanks for coming in. Who's Andy? Oh, I know. I've just seen Andy Burnham on my screen. Mike Anstead, thank you so much for coming in. I'll tell you what. We're going to talk. Take some calls. Before we do, though, as a potential topic, let's remind ourselves of what Andy Burnham has said about being blocked from standing in that by-election. He said this in the last hour. Take it away, Andy.
It is simply untrue to say that I was told that I would be blocked. So I can't say any more than that. I went through the whole weekend having conversations with people in Number 10, people in senior positions of the party, to discuss the pros and cons, and that's all I can say. It's simply untrue to say that there was a message given that I would definitely be blocked, because after all, the NEC is meant to be an independent body, so how could somebody say that it's definitely going to be blocked if they are an independent body? So it doesn't stack up what they are saying, and it is simply untrue.
Yeah, very strange that Keir Starmer voted against him standing, wasn't it? Very extraordinary. I wonder why. I wonder why he didn't want Andy Burnham back in the House of Commons, where he could have staged a challenge to the Prime Minister's leadership. I wonder why Keir Starmer blocked him. Any ideas? 0344 499 1000. Here's a voice note from Harry on Net Zero.
Why aren't we building more nuclear power stations and reopening the coal mines in this country? Look at China, for goodness sake. They have got great infrastructure, great economy and great system. This country should take note, and you should too, Ed Miliband.
Thank you, Harry, making his feelings clear about Ed Miliband. I mean, this man, is Ed Miliband the most dangerous man in the country? I would get you to call in about that, but I know what the answer is. It's yes. Seriously, though, let me know what you think about Ed Miliband. Now he's under attack from a massive union, the GMB union, who give £1 million a year to Labour. Their Scottish leader just says this guy is ruining industry, he's ruining the country, he's ruining Aberdeen. It's insane. 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Daryl on the phone in Lincoln. Hi, Daryl.
Oh, hi, Kevin. I'm just picking myself up off the floor from hearing Raheem Sterling's weekly wage.
I know, it's not bad for not playing it. It was, yeah, not doing anything and getting that amount of money. I do a lot and I don't get that much money, I'll tell you that.
1 week's wages would take me for life.
1 week, exactly. Daryl, what you want to talk about migrants?
Yeah, I mean...
The story we did at the beginning of the show about the Pakistani migrant who a judge decided we shouldn't know that he's an asylum seeker. When he was asked, this guy, in court, how did you get here? You know, what illegal method did you use to get to this country? He said, that's not relevant. It's not for him to decide. And the judge stepped in and backed him. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, I used to live in Egypt and Saudi Arabia and Morocco.
So you lived around the Muslim countries, yeah?
Yeah, I worked and lived in those countries and lived amongst those people for a long time. And I know exactly what their views are on white European women. You know, they look at them in a very sexual, objective way.
Interesting.
And I've seen the way that they behave with those women who come to like Egypt and Morocco as tourists. You know, they don't just, you know, like a normal red-blooded male would just glance at a pretty woman and then without making her feel uncomfortable, they would just, you know, carry on. Whereas these guys, they latch onto them and they want to get near them, engage with them, and touch them.
It's a bit sort of lungy, isn't it? Very bit too physical.
Yeah.
I mean, we should, in fairness, say we're not pointing the finger at all Arab gentlemen, but some of them can be like this, and we know what we're talking about, don't we? In this country, this is the rape gang syndrome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've sat and talked to these guys, you know, and they've showed me things that they've seen on the internet, and they've laughed and joked about, you know, coming here to sort of like, you know, basically what, you know, it's a big draw to them to come to this country and engage with.
So when you were out there, Daryl, you found that a lot of these guys in these countries, they looked upon white women as kind of sexual playthings.
Well, yeah, they do, and it's very naive of anyone in this country to think otherwise, you know. And
so the rape gang scandal doesn't surprise you one bit.
Not at all. Not at all.
Interesting.
And the only thing that surprises me is that we don't hear more rapes from these, you know, illegal immigrants that are coming.
Well, I think the number is soaring. That is the problem. There is a problem. It looks like we've imported some kind of sex crime epidemic. At least that we're worried that we may be heading in that direction. Daryl, thank you. Excellent call. Daryl in Lincoln. Let's quickly talk to John in Cornwall. John, you want to talk about Holocaust Memorial Day, or what would you like to say?
Yeah, hi, Kevin. Yes, it's my subject all my life has been history. I love history.
Mm-hmm.
And what concerns me now is with the internet and technology of today's world, something that happened, a dreadful thing that happened nearly 90 years ago. But now, you know, the Holocaust Memorial is every single day in this country on the television. There is either films, documentaries, about the Second World War.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, you cannot have that without who was the man responsible for the Second World War, and the man technically that was responsible for the Holocaust Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And it seems now that half the world is probably gets bombarded with all these films and, I mean, documentaries. It keeps that man's name alive.
What, Hitler? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't going to.
Yeah, but I mean, why should we get rid of the name Adolf Hitler? He was he was this awful, evil, arguably one of the most evil human beings ever to live. It's important to remember him, isn't it?
Yes, but the point is, there will be a large chunk of the world that actually celebrates that he was.
Well, yeah, I know, but you can't expunge it or chuck him out of history. You've got to talk about him. This nonsense about don't mention the word Adolf Hitler is just ridiculous. You have to remember the Holocaust because it's the worst crime against humanity in human history, and you have to remember the man who was responsible for it. I don't think we should try to forget Adolf Hitler, because if we do, we might get another one. That's the last thing we want. I'll take your point, though, John. Very interesting call. John in Cornwall. Now, after the break at 6 o'clock, after the 6 o'clock news, we're going to be talking to Adam Brooks, a political commentator. He's a pub owner, too. We'll talk about some of the big stories, but also about the Chancellor of the Exchequer and her attitude to our pubs.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the final hour of Drive. I'll be with you until 7 p.m. when Alex Phillips will take over the helm of the Good Ship Talk. She'll be presenting my show, The Political Asylum, from 7 until 10 p.m. But 60 sizzling minutes still to go. Now, in a little while, things may come and things may go. But the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten's Windsor's weird little horse rides will go on forever. You can be assured of that. Anyway, he's been out riding with Princess Bee, his daughter, who's showing a devoted loyalty to the most disgraced man in Britain. We'll catch up with what's going on with the former Prince Andrew, and also maybe catch up with what's going on with the current Prince Harry, the two royal pariahs. Let's find out what they're up to. We'll do that in a little while with royal biographer Angela Levin, find out what's in the Sun tomorrow, and take some more calls and some more WhatsApp voice notes. I'll read some of your messages. Lots of messages about young Bob. I'll read some of those out in just a little while. But first up, let's go through some of the biggest stories of the day with broadcaster and writer and publican Adam Brooks. Welcome to the show, Adam.
How you doing? All right, Kev?
I'm good, mate. Well, first of all, we're hearing that you in the pub industry are popping the champagne corks because all is forgiven. Rachel Reeves has made your lives an absolute paradise and a dream again by relaxing some of the taxes on you. Are you lost in wonder and gratitude to the Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Absolutely not. And this is a message to Rachel Reeves and all Labour MPs. You are still barred from my pub, and you are still barred from the 1,500 publicans that have also signed up to this as well. This is an utter disgrace what they've done here. Not only is it just a 15% cut in a huge rise for many of us, my rates are going up by 50%. So this doesn't touch the sides. Her last two budgets have cost me around £30,000 per year in extra costs. So, you know, an extra 50, maybe 40, £50 a week in savings is not going to help this industry. I'm lucky. I've got a good community pub. I've got great regulars, and I've got people now, thanks to my work on Talk and GB News and all these other media outlets, coming to see me and support my pub as well. But not all publicans are that lucky. Many are going to go out of business. A 15% rise when the average pub saw a 76% rise in business rates. Hotels saw an average of 115%, yet warehouses 17%. And what was the other one? Supermarkets only went up 4%. Hospitality is on a cliff edge. And for them not to help the rest of hospitality, I've got to stand here and say, look, I stand side by side with our hotel operators, our cafe operators, and our restaurateurs, because this government now, it looks like they're either completely clueless, or they want to demolish the hospitality industry completely. We are going to see thousands of pubs go out of business this year, and it's Rachel Reeves' fault.
Just recap now. She's offered you or publicans, the hospitality industry, some kind of deal, you know, a support package. This is to reduce your business rates by 15%, but you're saying that they've already gone up so much, your expenses are so high, that this is just a drop of water in the ocean.
It doesn't touch the sides, Kev. Again, her budgets, national insurance contributions, that's one of the worst budget policies I've seen in decades from a Chancellor. It doesn't make sense. I think that added about £300 a week to my costs on its own. Now, when they keep putting up the minimum wage, we all want people to earn more money. But all that's happening is when they keep forcing this on us, I've reduced shifts. I've let some people go. I'm a backstreet pub. It has to be profitable, has to make money. And people are losing out on jobs because of this Chancellor. I think it's now 150,000 jobs in hospitality have been lost by her 2 budgets. She's demolishing this industry. She's clueless.
Adam, how much, you have a pub in a very nice area of Essex near London, don't you, Buckhurst Hill? How much are you, in order to cover your costs, so you talk about you've got to make a profit, of course, same deal for every business, every pub. How much are you having to charge for a pint?
Well, look, my pints range from about £5 to late £6, depending on what strength beer.
Well, that's a good deal, though, Adam. That's a good deal compared down here in central London. It's usually about £8. And now the point about that, though, mate, isn't it? Is this? If you say to me, go to the pub, it's going to cost you £6 for a pint, or go to the pub, it's going to cost you £8 for a pint, a lot of people are going to go, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll go to the supermarket and I'll buy a load of tins for a lot less, and that will kill the pub industry, right?
We're in a death spiral, Kev, because I haven't put up my prices that much since COVID. Because of all the inflationary measures, the energy crisis, this Chancellor and other taxes being put on us, it should be £8 a pint in my pub. I can't pass that on to the public, so my margins are now a lot thinner. I have to put them up before the next budget because of her actions. And look, we have customers that have got less money in their pocket. So we are putting that extra cost on our customers. This Chancellor's actions are affecting the working man and working women of this country, and they pretend to be on their side. Nonsense. They are driving inflation. This Chancellor is causing inflation by her actions, and she's going to oversee the destruction of hospitality if they do not do something. Now, just quickly, we as an industry need a VAT cut. If you go to Europe, if you look at Ireland, their VAT rates are 13% for hospitality, or around there. And that is because their governments look at hospitality and tourism and think, right, we need people spending money in those sectors. So we need that. That will help our cash flow. That will help prices stay lower. But they're clueless, this government. They think that it's just going to cost us money. It's not. If they invigorate this sector with a VAT cut, they will see more money come into the Treasury. Other governments do it. This government is clueless.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that. Can I get you on a couple of other sort of general issues? We started the show today, Adam, with a story about a Pakistani national. He's an asylum seeker who's been found guilty of 2 rapes, actually 2 counts of rapes of a vulnerable teenage girl who he pounced upon in a park in the Midlands. Now, the judge in this trial decided that the public and indeed the jury had no right to know that this guy was an asylum seeker. And Lee Anderson, who's the local MP for the area, he Sutton in Ashfield in Nottinghamshire, he actually whistle blew and just said, I'm going to say this because this is wrong. This the keeping secret of this kind of fact is worrying, isn't it? I think that we, the public, and certainly a jury, but we, the public, have a right to know when a sex crime, a rape, a serious crime, or any serious crime is committed by an asylum seeker, one of these people who have arrived in this country illegally. We don't want the authorities keeping this secret. What are your feelings about this?
The authorities have got no right to keep these sort of things from us. At the end of the day, we fund these asylum seekers' accommodation, their food, their free healthcare, and everything else that they get for free. It's our taxes that pay for these. Yet these are being put into our communities en masse. We're seeing sexual assaults. I'm well known for my protest at the Bell Hotel in Epping. We had a sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl. Why are the authorities covering this up? I'll tell you why. Because these crimes are happening every day. I'm putting on my Instagram and on my social media one of these rapes, one of these sexual assaults, one of these violent episodes from an asylum seeker every day. And That is just the tip of the iceberg. They're the ones that we find out about, that I can go digging, or that a local paper has put up. How many do we not know about? Only yesterday, there was a migrant urinating outside Loughton Station near me, in front of schoolgirls and women. He had his bits out, and he had no contempt. You know, he didn't care. For me, this country is just being overridden by people with
from different cultures and different ways of behaving. I agree with you. Let me ask you about this, Adam. The one in, one out scheme. We've got the current score. It's just been revealed that since we launched this scheme in September, that's when it started. We actually launched it back in August, but we didn't actually get it going until the middle of September. We have deported to France a total of 281 migrants. Meanwhile, they have deported back here to Britain 350 migrants. So we're losing. Since September, more than 10,000 illegal migrants have come across the channel in small boats unlawfully. 10,000. We have deported 281 and imported 351 under the terms of the very expensive one in, one out scheme. This is, I said earlier, this is a sick joke, isn't it?
They are trolling us. This was meant to be a revolutionary scheme. Commentators like myself, you, and others on other channels and other media outlets said this would not work. They're not going to mass deport these people. We've had Keir Starmer on his X account and standing in interviews saying, if you come to this country illegally, you will be detained and deported. That was a lie. Smash the gangs, lie. One in, one out, lie. They're just lying to us constantly, and we're sick of it. But what they will do is people like me are labelled far right because we won't have this. We won't stop talking out about these foreign cultures coming and being dumped into our communities. We are being invaded. People don't like that word, but it's the truth. We are being invaded by people with far different morals and behaviour to ours. Our women and our children are at risk. And all they keep coming up with are these slogans or these ridiculous policies. They got rid of Rwanda. That was a deterrent. There was interviews online from migrants that said, I wouldn't want to end up in Rwanda. They know that we're not going to do that. And look, the stats say it all. They are lying to us. This government is so dishonest. I cannot wait until they're gone.
Well, it could be worse, Adam. You could be in Spain. Spain has just announced that it will give 500,000, 500,000 undocumented migrants legal status if they can prove that they lived in Spain for at least 5 months, the whole of 5 months, prior to the 31st of December 2025, so December just gone. They will be allowed to stay. They will be given a proper residential permit. Now, what that is, that's an incentive scheme to any migrants who want to go to Spain. Go to Spain, prove you've been there 5 months, and then you can stay forever. So you think our policies are mad? That's insane, isn't it?
We are just we are seeing governments destroying the West. Where are we going to be in another 3 years under this government as well? People have had enough, and people that I would never expect to come up to me in the street and say, please keep speaking for me. You know, if you told me a few years ago these sort of people would be on my side with this sort of thing, I wouldn't believe you. But the majority of this country has had enough, and that is the reason Labour will never get in again, because of this immigration farce.
And have you had enough of net zero? Big story today. The leader of the GMB union up in Scotland, she's torn into Ed Miliband, saying he's ruining jobs, that his net zero policy is the worst attack on British industry in living memory, so on and so forth. This is a big union. This is the third biggest donor to the Labour government. They give the Labour Party £1 million every year, and they have ripped Miliband stand apart. What do you think about net zero? I personally think it's crazy and it's destroying our economy. Your thoughts, Adam?
I agree. I've been speaking for years on net zero. I call it nut zero. And
I've been calling that all day.
Yeah, and in Ed Miliband, I mean, for me, I don't want to get sued here, he doesn't look all the ticket. He really doesn't look all the ticket. He's mad on net zero. It is going to cost jobs. It is going to cost us in the pocket with higher bills. And they don't care. We're going to see blackouts because of it. We've got countries around the world firing up their coal mines and firing up old power stations. We've concreted over all of ours. What are we going to do? We're going to have to go and pay other countries for energy because idiots like Miliband are just destroying the whole industry. We cannot survive on wind turbines. We cannot survive on solar panels. And solar panels, we're going to import them from China. What sort of, what sort of move is that?
Well, Keir Starmer's there supervising that as we speak, so that's good to know, isn't it? Adam, come on again soon. That was great. Good to have you on board. Adam Brooks there, broadcaster, writer and publican, so lots to say on this government's attitude to our hospitality industry. Lots of messages about young Bob. They like young Bob, very clever guy. He is incredibly clever. They're not so sure about his politics. This is due to the fact he's sort of left Reform UK and joined Ben Habib's Advance UK party. This is Christina. Young Bob showing he is still a tad naive and lacks understanding of politics. He obviously does not listen to people like Suella and Rob Jenrick. He has gone to the little shouty man's party. This is antipathy towards Ben Habib, the leader of Advance UK. Let's go to the phones. Let's quickly talk to Graham in Wokingham. Graham, you want to talk about publicans? What would you like to say?
Yeah. Good evening, Kevin. There are certain pubs which have flats over the top of them.
Yeah.
The only access to those flats is through the pub. So unless it's the publican using them, you can't really rent them out.
Okay.
Because somebody's just going to enjoy your benefits of your work. However, the council, because those flats are empty, last year doubled the council tax on those flats, and it's going to quadruple the council tax in the coming year.
Well, so hang on a second. So these flats, apartments above pubs, are being subjected to a new tax boost. What is that about? Why?
If the flats are empty, and you can't, in a lot of cases, the older pubs, the 1600s pubs, the only access to those flats are through the pub.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't just have anybody staying there.
Why not?
Because if they've got access to your pub at night and they have parties.
If they have parties? Yeah.
The flat, they've still got access to your bar.
Okay. What are you saying, that the councils have put the tax up on those flats?
Because they're empty, they've actually doubled the council tax on those flats this year.
Okay. Well, the publicans have to pay
for an empty flat, double the council tax.
It's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Why don't you just let people into the flats? I don't understand that. I mean, why can't they rent the flats out?
Because the only way to the flat is through the main pub.
So what? What's wrong with that?
Well, you can't protect your product.
What do you mean protect your product? I don't get it. What product? What product?
Alcohol.
What do you mean? You mean the people who live in the flats as they go through the pub are going to steal the booze? I don't get that.
It's a risk. It's a risk.
Is it? Is it?
Oh, yeah.
But you might as well say that anybody who goes into the pub might nick the booze, not just the people walking through it on the way up to their flats.
But they're there all night with the pub empty.
Okay. I'm not quite sure I get what you're going at. Graham, we're going to have to move on, but we'll have a look into that. It's an interesting point. Got to move on, though. Thank you for a good call. Interesting call. Graham in Wokingham. Couldn't quite work that out. If you got any... seriously, if you know about that, give me a call, 03444991000. Let's go to break. Oh, well, let me read a message. Paul Murray sent us a message. He says that Ireland, remember Adam Brooks talking about VAT, Ireland has dropped its VAT for pubs, hotels, and hotels to 9% in their most recent budget. So this is what Adam Brooks is calling for the government to do for British pubs, but of course they're not doing it. And here's another angry message about... people get very angry about Ben Habib and Advance UK. This is Carl. Nobody outside politics has heard of Advance. Wasted vote, only been in one election and were behind Reform UK. Look, Carl, you know, whatever you think, Advance UK have got every right to exist. You might think it's a wasted vote, but if you vote for what you believe in, that is not a wasted vote. It never is. It never is. This is Joanna from Salisbury saying Starmer blocked Andy Burnham from standing for MP because turkeys do not vote for Christmas. Exactly. So Keir Starmer didn't vote for Andy Burnham to be able to stand in the by-election, because then Andy would become an MP and then he could challenge for the leadership and he'd almost certainly win. That is what a lot of cynics believe, including me. Shall we go to break? When we come back, we'll talk to Angela Levin, royal biographer, about the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew, and also maybe a bit of Prince Harry as well. What the hell is he up to now? Angela Levin and the royals next. Stay tuned.
then that does raise the whole question that Shamima Begum has raised. But on balance, I would say that the default position has to be you went out to Syria to do this stuff. You are clearly associated with this stuff, therefore you stay. You made your bed, you lie in it. You want to be out there, you stay out there. You want a caliphate? Well, you know, hoping Syria is never going to be one of those. But you're sure as hell likely to have it, more likely to have it there than you are in the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk royals. Let's go straight over to royal biographer Angela Levin. Welcome, Angela.
Hello.
Now, I want to talk to you about Prince Andrew, or the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor as he is now. But let me ask you this first. I thought it was a very strange chronology in Prince Harry's life, that last week there he is sitting in a court blubbing about how the press are so terrible to his wife. They've made my wife's life a misery, which had nothing to do with the case at hand. But there he was talking about the press and privacy and our right to privacy, and isn't it awful, the media? And then he hops straight on an aeroplane, effectively flies to Park City in Utah, where they have the Sundance Film Festival, possible, whereupon he courts the media and the press to publicise his and Meghan's new movie called Cookie Queens, which is about Girl Scouts. Strange. 1 week, oh, the press is so terrible, I get no privacy. Days later, flies to America saying, give me publicity. You know, I'm here to promote this film. Publicity. This man is a mass of contradictions, isn't he?
Yeah, but he does what his wife wants him to do. So, you know, if she wants him to help the public buy things or look at things or decide on things, then, you know, she's happy. And he's desperately keen to keep her happy all the time. So that's why, really. And I imagine it's a very long way to come back. And he just didn't necessarily sleep, but he would be there in time. She didn't actually, if you'd watched to see how the people who were doing this Sundance element, that the woman who was doing it didn't want to get anywhere near Meghan. She didn't let her hold her hand, but she put her arm around Harry. So Meghan gets Harry because it gets her more people. She's not popular. We've seen that. She's getting less and less popular. So she now wants Harry near her, and so that he can do the things that will get more people and therefore more money.
Yeah, so Harry, as I say, the chronology in his life is 1 week in court, sobbing about how terrible the press are to his wife, sobbing about demanding his right to privacy, the awful media preying on his privacy, gets on an aeroplane, a couple of days later, there he is, courting publicity, demanding publicity. I'm Prince Harry, here's my movie. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but then again, his life doesn't make a lot of sense. So from one royal pariah to the next, we talk of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, constantly being seen riding around Windsor Great Park on his horse. He puts on his little hat and he looks a picture of misery. But what I thought was interesting, this most recent outing, which I think was yesterday, was that we were told that both Princess Bee and Princess Eugenie had sort of kind of severed ties with their disgraced father, and yet yesterday Princess Bee was riding along with him. So a devoted daughter still showing loyalty to the most disgraced man in Britain.
Yes, well, I think it was Christmas time. They didn't actually see him. They were drawn between the king and his family there, or rather than their father. And that's why neither of them saw him. But there were rumours that two of them had gone to see him. Now, Beatrice is very fond of her father, and
someone's got to be, I suppose.
Yeah, and she's always known as someone who's got very good common sense. And she tried to stop him having the BBC interview in 2019 when he fell out and he thought he was talking very well about all the people he went to see, and everybody was absolutely appalled by him. But she was there because he's been very miserable, and she goes and looks after him, tries to cheer him up, took their little 4-year-old, her little 4-year-old, and they went for a short drive. But he won't be able to do that much longer because he will have moved out by the middle of February. So he's just enjoying that as much as he can. And it's just a daughter who feels, he's done terrible things, but I'm his daughter and he's my father. And Eugenie, where they said she wanted absolutely nothing to do with him, that's not right. She has been to see him, but she doesn't want a whole fuss. And to just pop round to see. He's not in a very good state. He's from 30 bedrooms down to 5, and it's a very small space. And he needs his family. His ex-wife no longer wants to have anything to do with him either. He's let her down. So, he does want somebody they call Daddy's girl.
So Fergie, Sarah Ferguson, ex-wife, as you say, they had this weird arrangement where, they call themselves the most happily divorced couple in Britain. So they shared the Royal Lodge. As you say, he's getting kicked out of there next month, making his way to that reduced circumstance cottage in Sandringham up in Norfolk. Only 5 bedrooms. Poor guy, how will he cope? What's happened to Fergie? Where's she gone?
She's gone far away. We don't know quite where. Usually suggested that she came to live with them because they have a home in the
Portugal, isn't it?
Portugal,
Yeah.
that's right. And she didn't want to do that. I think she didn't want to be a granny, you know, and look after the 2 little boys and not have much fun for herself. So she's happy to see them, but she doesn't want to be the grandma at home, and we don't know where she's going. She wants to be somewhere abroad. She might go to America. She's debating whether to talk and give a big sort of story about herself, and people are trying to persuade her not to do that. It won't go down very well with the king. And on the other hand, she was trying to get some television because she had a book that she wrote and the publisher refused to take it because you don't want to give a child a book about children with the writer who's actually been not very good herself, and also with a husband who's been very ungood.
Well, her continued friendship with a convicted paedophile, a child sex abuser, Jeffrey Epstein, that does not make her an ideal children's author, does it?
Exactly. So all of them have been stopped, and one which was coming out just around Christmas, that was finished altogether. So she's not making any money. But I think if she doesn't get any money, she will give a talk about her life and what's gone on. But I think it's a big mistake. That would be a big mistake.
Yeah, but then again, her life has been full of big mistakes, hasn't it? Arguably marrying Andrew in the first place, but that's another issue. Just the one last question, Angela. Going back to Harry, I mean, from observing his life, it seems to be there's nothing going on. It's empty, isn't it? You know, so was it last month or was it the month before? You know, he suddenly flew up to Canada to address an audience full of estate agents, or real estaters as they call them over there, just for money. You know, he's come over to pursue the latest of his strange cases against the media. That seems to be his big obsession, this, dragon slayer taking on the mighty media, positioning himself as some kind of hero in a battle, in a war that he doesn't realise he will never win, but on he goes. Apart from that, you know, OK, Meghan, for all her faults, and let's face it, there are many, I mean, she does keep busy, screwing everything up, her useless as ever business and this movie and her failed podcast. I mean, she never gives up, old Meg. But Harry, what's he doing? Anything?
Well, he looks after the kids a bit.
Oh, well, that's good.
And I think that's about it. He was working, helping people with mental health issues, but I think that's stopped now. But he doesn't know what to do with himself. That's why, 1, he wants to come back to the UK. 2, he wants his father to give him some work to do. And he wants his father to give him money. And he's working a lot to do with Olympics Games, and that's next year.
You mean the Invictus Games? Yeah.
Invictus Games, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
And
that's not a full-time. That's not a full-time job, Angela, as you well know. This guy has a very empty life.
He has, and he's very unhappy.
Yeah, exactly right. So we'll chart his progress. We wish him well, and we don't want him to be unhappy, but he certainly is. That's why, by the way, when he turned up to court last week, he looked about 50 years older than the last time I've seen him. He can't hang on to those few strands of ginger hair that he scrapes across his bald pate for much longer, covered in wrinkles. He looks ancient. He's got the weight.
He looks 20 years older, doesn't he?
He really does. He's 41. Yeah. He looks 61. So he needs to be happy, because when you're miserable, it's very aging. I'm here to tell you. Angela, great to talk to you as always. Let's go to break. When we come back, we'll find out what is in the pages of Britain's favourite newspaper, The Sun, tomorrow. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Time now to find out what's in The Sun tomorrow with Deputy Head of News at The Sun, Will Barker. Welcome, Will.
Hello.
Here's a story for all of you. I know you're fascinated by... Actually, I am quite fascinated by Katie Price. Always the bride, never the bridesmaid. She got married for the 4th time.
Well, yeah, I was thinking that a man of your tabloid experience, you must have done some stories on Katie Price.
I know Katie Price, yeah. She doesn't like me very much, I'll tell you. But she is a strange character and quite fascinating, I found. But anyway, she's got married for the 4th.
Well, that's the thing. We thought she sort of like disappeared off. She's sort of like maybe gone almost retired into the pin-up world and sort of gone to put her feet up. But she's suddenly back with a vengeance.
So who is this guy,
Exactly.
Lee Andrews? He styles himself as some kind of billionaire, extremely successful, educated businessman. But there seems to be a suggestion that he isn't much more than a male escort at the moment. What do we know about this guy?
So basically Friday, pictures emerged that she's now got engaged to somebody's mystery man. They then, in the space of just 40 hours, they then get married out of the blue in Dubai. And this is the first we know of this guy, Lee Andrews. And slowly over the last few hours and days, we've been getting more and more about this guy. We ran to this morning a spread about the sort of lies and fishy things going on in his CV, things that maybe he wasn't completely telling the truth.
Pictures with, say, Kim Kardashian, for example, that may or may not be AI generated. Right?
Exactly. And he claimed he was part of some Labour board. Labour had no knowledge who he was. All sorts of strange things. Then this morning it came out that he's on male escort sites. Charging about £1,000 an hour for massages.
That's why he's so rich. You know, he's a very successful male escort. Well, I wish Katie and her new husband a very, very happy married life together.
Well,
for about I would suggest about 2 months before it goes wrong.
We've got a lot more, and you'll see in the paper tomorrow. There's a lot more. I'm not sure she's going to be very happy with us when she reads it in the morning.
We just spoke to pub landlord Adam Brooks about Labour's continuing sort of battle, really, with the hospitality industry. Rachel Reeves has claims to have served up a glass of cheer for pub landlords. Tell us all about that.
Well, yeah, she announced. I mean, she's been in trouble with the landlords. The hospitality industry's been on the knees, and you know, make no bones about it, Labour have made it worse for them, and they're very unhappy. We've been running a campaign. They've barred all Labour MPs from their pubs, and so she's come out today with a sort of to wave a little bit of some money at them. We reckon about 1,600 quid a year to sort of make up for their shortcomings. But I think the sort of general feeling is too little too late, really. Pubs
well, as I say, we just had pub landlord and political commentator Adam Brooks on. He runs a pub in Buckhurst Hill in Essex. You know, he was furious, absolutely furious. I mean, this is, you know, just a little sap that isn't going to work for the pubs.
But also hotels and all those restaurants aren't getting involved in it.
Yeah, it's very strange the way this government is treating the hospitality industry, and our pubs are at risk. I mean, they are closing at an alarming rate. Let's move on. Storm Chandra. But before we get on to Storm Chandra itself, why don't they ever have Storm Janet, Storm John, Storm Bob, Storm Jane? Why is it all these weird names?
Strange names.
Why Chandra?
I don't know.
Anyway,
it's quite hard. Normally we can pun on them, but Chandra's quite a hard one to pun on.
Yeah, that's
We've been working on it all day.
It's not headline material, is it?
Not at all, no.
So Chandrageddon.
Well, anybody who's looked out the window today would have seen that there's been rain and horrible wind and all sorts of stuff. And I was driving in from Brum this morning and driving past all sorts of flooding and one thing and another. Devon, it's quite hard to
work.
Do
you come every day from Birmingham?
No, just at the start of the week.
Oh, okay, get it, yeah.
And but yeah, it started very early this morning. I drove in and there's been been 75 mile per hour winds, all sorts of flooding. Devon seems to be on the edge. There's the River Otter's the worst it's had in 25 years, and looks like it could burst its banks there. And
okay. Lastly, a wheelie bin. This is a wheelie bin has done some sort of epic 5,000-mile journey. Tell us about that.
Yeah, part of the storms. Often what you do sort of see almost a symbol of the storms, a sort of like wheelie bins sort of chucked over on the road. Yeah. And so this guy, Ryan Stalker, went out on this beach in Weymouth.
Oh, wow.
And saw this bin, and thought, there's a bin on the floor. They looked at it, it's a bit of an odd shape. Went and took a closer look. It turned out it was from Alabama.
Yeah, Baldwin County, Alabama. So the implication is it's come all the way across. So that you have a message in a bottle, all that.
Yeah.
This is a message in a wheelie bin. It's come all the way across the Atlantic.
Well, the Yanks are a little bit more on the ball than us. I think probably if you lost a bin around here, it'd be gone. But they have a PIN number on these bins, and they reckon they managed to track it back to Fort Morgan in Alabama.
Extraordinary.
And it was whipped over by Hurricane Sally in about 5 years ago. Yeah. And it's been making its merry way and now landed up in Dorset.
This was found by beachcomber Ryan Stalker. Quote of the year: "It had some barnacles attached to it, so I knew it must have been in the water for some time." What an epic voyage for a wheelie bin to make. Good to know Americans have wheelie bin problems as well. Will Barker, Deputy Head of News at The Sun, thank you very much. That's what's going to be in Britain's favourite newspaper tomorrow morning. Maybe you can catch it online now, you never know. Let's go to break. When we come back, the rest of the show's down to you. Get on the phone, 03444991000. I'll read some more messages. Mostly I hope to take calls from you. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk.
That does raise the whole question that Shamima Begum has raised. But on balance, I would say that the default position has to be you went out to Syria to do this stuff. You are clearly associated with this stuff, therefore you stay. You made your bed, you lie in it. You want to be out there, you stay out there. You want a caliphate? Well, hoping Syria is never going to be one of those. But you're sure as hell more likely to have it there than you are in the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Go to the phones in just a little while, but a few messages. First, this is from Joanna in Salisbury. She says, let's talk about heat pumps. Ed Miliband wants us all to have heat pumps. They cost like 30,000 quid or something to put in your house, and they don't work very well. So you lose a lot of money and you get colder. So heat pumps, so they should be called cold pumps. They don't work. Anyway, Joanna says, I don't know anyone that has had a heat pump pump fitted that hasn't regretted it. I can concur. I know a few people, you know, middle-class people polishing their virtues, saying, we're going to put a heat pump in and it's really going to help the environment. And then they put it in and they go, oh, it's freezing. They don't work very well. Joanna says, I don't know anyone that has had a heat pump fitted that hasn't regretted it. China finds it okay to blackmail Starmer to get the embassy built. Now Starmer's going empty-handed to China. No Chagos Islands. We might not get any more solar panels, turbines or infrastructure. We can dream. And John in Mainster says, why doesn't the government drill, baby, drill? And with that money that they earn from the oil, they can sell and use that to fund the net zero madness rather than have the taxpayer pay for it. What you mean? So, so they run a sort of fossil fuel energy operation, sell the fossil fuel energy, and then fund net zero with it. It's an interesting idea, John, but I'm not quite sure it hangs together all that well. Here is what we got here. This is Dan in Staffordshire. Hope all is well. Let's say if an IRA terrorist committed an atrocity in England, would it be relevant that they come from Ireland or not to commit that offence? I'd say yes. So why are asylum seekers getting a pass? I think it's relevant. It's always relevant where a defendant comes from. Their address is relevant. The town they live in is relevant. The county, where they come from, if they're foreign, if they're an asylum seeker, if they're a migrant. These are defendants. This is all relevant. This is all relevant. We cannot have judges, and indeed our sort of bien pensant, great and the good, deciding that we, the masses, the proles, haven't got the right to know whether or not this is an asylum seeker. We do have the right to know. Lee Anderson is right. That should not be kept secret. It really, really shouldn't. Should we go to the phones? Well, it's time for one of our greatest callers, Georgina in London. Hi, Georgina. Good to have you on Drive. What would you like to say?
Well, I've just rang up Kevin with a few things I wanted to say about Keir Starmer and all this Chinese...
Now, keep it clean, it's a family show.
I will. Well, I think it's absolute treachery what Keir Starmer's doing with regards of palling it up with China. China are not our friends, Kevin. They've broken their word to Britain before, and we still have a British citizen, Jimmy Lai, who was incarcerated in China for 2020 for breaking the communist laws regarding freedom of speech. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
Which should have been in place for 50 years. After Britain left China. Starmer would be better securing Jimmy Lai's freedom before any negotiations take place. Remember, Kevin, a snake only sheds its skin to become a bigger snake, and that's what China is. And Starmer is showing himself to be an even bigger snake to the British electorate. Starmer and Miliband have made our country reliant on China for solar panels and wind turbines, while we as a nation haven't even the resources to make batteries to power them. He leaves us at the mercy of a hostile nation, and Starmer is using our money to pay for the privilege of our own structural and economic demise. He's given the go-ahead for a mega embassy to be built in our capital city from where they can infiltrate our very infrastructure. You know, this is a direct security breach, Kevin, for our national security and should be looked upon as a danger to our country's future. Keir Starmer has to be stopped. He is compromising both the security and the safety of our country and our population, and it's extremely insidious.
Exactly right. And what are your feelings? I'll tell you what's been a big theme of today's show, Georgina. It's been net zero, because the Scottish leader of the GMB union has torn into Ed Miliband in an extraordinary way, just saying this guy is ruining jobs in Scotland. This guy is launching what she calls the biggest threat to British industry in living memory. This is a union that gives £1 million a year to the Labour Party. He has something like 560,000 members, many of whom are losing their jobs because of Miliband's mad net zero policies. What I'm getting at is this net zero business, this obsession with the incoherent nonsense of net zero and Ed Miliband's crazed approach to it, I think is turning into something of a national crisis.
Well, it is a national crisis, Kevin, and it's the British people who are paying for this crisis. And once this damage is done, it's almost irreversible. What we should be doing is utilising the resources we already have within our own realm. We've got the North Sea there. There's enough power, oil, gas in the North Sea. We wouldn't have to worry about anything. This net zero ridiculous ideology is pie in the sky, and it's putting businesses out of business. It's putting people out of jobs. We cannot maintain the losses. It's just too much. Ed Miliband needs putting in an asylum. The man is off his rocker. And I'm no, seriously,
he needs a
Kevin,
padded cell and a straitjacket. I agree with you. I mean, he is so mad, and I can't believe that he is indulged by this government. We all know this net zero stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Economically, culturally, it is just deranged. And yet, Ed Miliband is allowed to strut around like he owns the joint, and he is indulged by a Prime Minister who doesn't seem to realise that his net zero secretary is, propelling Britain to hell in a handcart.
Well, that's exactly what he's doing. And like I said, all these jobs that are being lost, these are people who pay taxes. This directly affects our economy, all these jobs. And there have been thousands and thousands of proper good jobs, people who want to go to work, Kevin, and earn for the family. These people now, what are they going to do? Are they going to do what the Labour Party wants, to have a welfare state? Let's all go on benefits. We don't want that. We want an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And we don't mind going to work, but we need to have the work to go to. And Ed Miliband is killing the opportunity to go to work because he's killing the jobs.
He's killing our country, if you ask me, as well. Georgina, excellent call as always. Good to talk to you. Georgina in London, a quick, what have we got here? Yeah, this is Dean, another message, text message. Dean from Cowes on the Isle of Wight. Dean says, I think Starmer will have to resign. I think his position will become untenable. It's a matter of time for sure. How long, I'm not sure. The whole situation is a complete nightmare and a farce. Certainly, he's batted off Andy Burnham's challenge over the weekend. But the forces against him will rise again. It's almost like a game of whack-a-mole now for Keir Starmer. He might sort of keep Burnham away this time, but next time, will someone else challenge him? The knives are out for the Prime Minister, and he ain't going to survive too much longer. Now, let's go back to the phones and let's talk to another regular caller, Grace in Ealing to the west of London. Hi, Grace. What would you like to say? You want to talk about Advance UK?
Yeah, I've not been following it very closely. I've looked occasionally, but I was slightly curious as to what young Bob was referring to about Christian constitution points, and it's not really clear from Advance's website what that means. And it just brought to my mind a conversation that you and I had months ago, whereby someone from Turning Point UK came on, and he said Christianity is all about choice. And I then said to you, well, first and foremost, Christianity is about Christ, and we choose to follow Christ. And it just came to me that I like the idea of a political party recognising our country's Christian heritage. That's a really good thing, and I agree with Ben Habib that the anti-Muslimness law is a concern. But you can't make people Christian or make the country Christian with legislation, because, as we discussed, it's about choosing to follow Christ, and everyone has the choice either way. So everyone's got the choice not to follow Christ. And Ben Habib is saying in a little clip I'm watching here from around Christmas time that this law is the beginning beginning of the end of our country as a Christian country, but I think our country is less Christian just because people have decided not to be Christian, and that's their decision. I don't think you can kind of make the country Christian through legislation as much.
Well, I mean, it is, though, isn't it? I mean, well, this is not a secular country. Our official state religion is the Church of England, a Christian religion. So we have, in effect, turned this into a Christian country by statute.
Well, to an extent, yes, and it does influence a lot of the values that we hold as normative. That's completely true. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, Jesus said that people must choose whether or not they want to repentantly turn to him, and no one's forced. Mm-hmm. And it's not, Christianity is not just about tradition. It's not just about just about values, although those are very important. It is about a personal decision. And sometimes I wonder, I'm not saying this necessarily of benefit, if people are kind of trying to use the label of Christian because of the sentimental value that it has for some people, when actually it's about quite a big personal choice, and each person gets to make that choice.
I'll tell you what's interesting, though. So young Bob, Thomas Moffat, is a very committed Christian. It is the backbone of his existence. He's a very spiritual guy. He just feels that Advance UK encompass his outlook more than Reform. I just thought it was interesting from a 17-year-old. Grace, I've got to go because the show's nearly over. Thank you very much. Excellent call. Thank you, everyone, for a brilliant show. You've been an amazing audience. I've been a mediocre presenter, but you've got a brilliant presenter coming up. She's just entered the studio with a huge mountain of food. She is the great Alex Phillips. Hello, Alex. What you got there?
Well, I've got my packed lunch and some pizza that Dean got me. I've been at a funeral.
Tuesday, pizza night in the canteen.
I've been at a funeral, hence the macabre dress code. So I've only just barreled into the building and I'm sort of hungry. I haven't eaten, really. So
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, you feel bad now, don't you?
I do feel
bad.
Yeah.
No pizza for you, Kev.
Anybody close to you? What was it? The funeral?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
That's right.
But I hope you find some solace in that.